All right. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I was continuing the fight that Clayton White and I had yesterday. I didn't whip his butt enough yesterday, so I wanted to finish it before I walked in here. I told y'all Saturday after the game, social media is going to be the end of us all. There's another example. Are y'all freaking kidding me? And you guys believed it because y'all were texting coaches and staff members yesterday to ask if this was true. Sent it to my own wife, and a screenshot that I had Jessica Jackson send me of this rumor, and her response was, "Did y'all?" And just like I told our players, put the phone down, Emily, and everyone else. I know she's listening. I love you, babe.
Ah, yes. Social media. The end of us all. Where we can all put whatever we want on social media, pretend to be someone we're not, come up with rumors. Tyler, you've got inside sources, right? Just sources?
Yeah, I've got sources.
I think Preston and I did this one day with anonymous sources, inside sources.
Sure.
This was a stupid rumor. I will say, I will back Shane Beamer on this. I have inadvertently yesterday talked to multiple people. Nothing happened. And there's people putting stuff on message boards, and I guess Twitter. I didn't see Twitter. Nothing, like literally aside from a discussion on how to finish the season, there was nothing. And this is just, when you lose games, when things are kind of going wrong, this is what happens. This is what happens in 2025. Everybody piles on. And social media, I agree with him. I can't say I've agreed with. We're going to play a lot of stuff today. I can't say that I've agreed with Shane Beamer on a lot of things this year. And he said something else yesterday that I'm just like, all right, whatever. But social media being the death of us all is one of the most accurate things he said, because the things that get put on social media, false, true, whatever, absolutely ridiculous. And how did you address this yesterday? Was there any discussion?
Because again, the presser was in the middle of the show, and when it came back to our show, I did say, all right, well, there, if you had any, thought that might have been true, because apparently Clayton White came in, walked into the room like with his fist up, basically, like making fun of it too. Because I saw this being speculated about on Sunday or whenever it was, about the supposed fight the two had. And I guess when you're a fan or on the outside, I guess envision when a program's in the situation that Carolina's in right now, being 3-7. It's been a disappointing year. You embarrass yourself on Saturday with the collapse in the second half. I think you kind of just envision the house on fire, right? Like everything inside that building is just chaotic, and people are at each other's throats, and there's papers flying around everywhere. That's not necessarily the case. And I guess if you want to throw two coaches throwing hands with each other, why not, I guess? If that's your image of how things are going wrong, then okay.
Social media is a necessary evil, I guess. I partake in it. I'm trying to do more on there because of my current situation. I'm trying to do more of a little bit of a mental health podcast. I did one on Monday night. So I can't say, Tyler, I can't say that if I didn't do this profession, that I would be involved in social media. But being in this profession, we both have to utilize it. We have to kind of do it and use it. But it is a funny item, and it was something, quite frankly, that when I saw it, whatever, Sunday, Monday, I can't remember. Whenever I saw it, my instinct was like, I doubt that's true. And sure enough, I have confirmed with enough people that nothing, like, this isn't even a cover-up. It was stupid, and like I said, I'm going to do another mental health care podcast tonight. You can go to my Twitter at Will, W-I-L, Gunner, G-U-N-T-R. But Tyler, I mean, we've got a lot to talk about today.
We do.
For a Wednesday, there is a lot going on for us to get into.
We have proclamations for a year from now. We'll get into some of that. Obviously, there's the fallout of what happened on Saturday, perception versus reality. There's a lot of angles we can go with just what Beamer told us yesterday.
We'll get into all of that now that I'm back. Had a phenomenal doctor's appointment yesterday. Couldn't have gone better. I will share on my Twitter later on. Again, you can go there at Will Gunner, G-U-N-T-E-R. I'll have something out tonight. I will share what is going on with my current health situation. But yesterday was phenomenal. Thank you to Tyler and Captain Dave and Terry and everybody for allowing me the day off to go and deal with my personal issues. I'm back, and we're going to have a really good time today. We'll get into the press conference from yesterday. Just looking very quickly, 19 quotes. Not a couple of them, Tyler, are a little bit long.
Yeah, I had to, let's see, which one did I have to trim down significantly? Oh, what has to happen for 2026? He went for about 5 minutes on that one. And to give a peek behind the curtain, I try and keep things around 2-ish minutes. I feel like that's a consumable bite of sound. Typically, that's kind of the max. I gave him about 3 on that one because he did say a lot of good stuff. But I'm like, okay, I can't put all 5 minutes in here. So if you want to hear the full context of that, you have to skim back through the press conference. But I tried to cut it off where he got all the important stuff in and still shortened it a little bit.
So we'll get into all that. We'll get into all of that. A lot going on there. College football playoff rankings last night. We'll get into that. I think, Tyler, this is my big takeaway, and we'll discuss more of it. If you want to be the conspiracy person, if you want to yell and scream and complain about them, fine. They're going to change.
Yeah.
They're going to alter. They're going to change. Something wacky and crazy in the next 2 weekends is going to happen. I don't know what it's going to be. Look, we almost created our own wacky thing on Saturday by knocking off Texas A&M. Almost. But, you know, I'm seeing like complaints about Notre Dame and Miami and Vanderbilt being at 14 and so forth. Utah at 12. I don't know if that's even relevant. But, Tyler, what was it, real quick, big picture takeaway from college football playoff rankings last night?
We're really getting into some controversial stuff. I'm a firm believer that the committee sets chess pieces, even though they won't admit it. You know, then Reese Davis goes on there every single week and says, hey, well, if X or Y happens this weekend, how would y'all react? Or conference championship weekend, they always say the same thing. Oh, we don't deal in hypotheticals. They absolutely do. They set chess pieces, and I think they're starting to set some chess pieces for things that are going to be happening over the next couple weeks and ultimately on Championship Saturday that are going to decide the 12-team field. But we're in a situation, we could have a lot of teams with very comparable resumes, like 5 or 6 of them fighting for like 2 spots if things break the right way in the last couple weeks of the regular season here.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think this year, last year, maybe because we were trying to watch and learn and understand everything and just the concept of the 12-team concept, I don't know if we fully enjoyed what was happening, or maybe, and I'm being serious about this, maybe because South Carolina was involved. We
Right.
were looking at it more through tunnel vision of South Carolina and not big picture. This is fun. There's going to be a lot of games. We'll get into our breakdown of games tomorrow and Friday. But there's going to be a lot of games that are very relevant to, Tyler, as you just said, trying to determine essentially about the 10-team. And I'm going to say 10 because the ACC, I'm pretty sure, is going to get a team.
Yep.
They can indeed be left out, but
Duke losing this past weekend probably eliminated that chaos scenario of them getting left out.
Right. Yeah, they should be okay. Another complaint last night, Tulane being in there. I think James Madison now
Yeah.
upset.
Well, John Summerall didn't even think Tulane should have been ranked.
Yeah, yeah. So, again, I'd laugh. It's all you can do. You just be like, all right, we're going to get to the bottom of it. Don't worry.
But you know what? It's a TV show. At the end of the day, it's for
Yes.
entertainment purposes. And on Tuesday nights, I'm getting entertained.
And I'll say this. I think what the committee does is in part to do what's happened right now,
Sure.
to have us discuss. They're in there and like, all right, here's what we got, but we want people to discuss. Let's do something crazy.
When the 4-team playoff was originated, part of the contract with the ESPN was a weekly rankings reveal on Tuesday night and ultimately one on Sunday that ended up setting the field where they knew every single week, especially if your team's involved, you're going to tune in. You're going to see where they put you, what they're saying about you, what you have to do to get yourself into this invitational tournament to make a run at the national championship. And again, we can poke a million holes in what they've done this year and in years past, but at the end of the day, we watch and we talk about it, and that's exactly because they know, regardless if it's 4 teams, 12 teams, 16 teams, 24 teams, we're going to watch in December. They're going to load up that Friday night, December 19th or whenever it is, and December 20th that Saturday with 4 playoff games, and we're going to sit on our couches and watch every single one of them to see who's going to go on to the next round of the college football playoff. They've got us hook, line, and sinker.
They do. So we'll talk more about that. We'll offer a little bit more of our assessment of that because of, like I said, things are still a lot to be worked out and figured out. Basketball last night. Odd game. I'm interested to see if my perspective fits your perspective and fits the perspective of those who watched it.
Okay.
I'll just say this. They dominate. They blow out Radford. They do exactly what they're supposed to. Excellent work. I came away with some questions, though, and I put out a video at halftime, Tyler, of just some of the things that I was bringing up. I'm excited. I'm fired up. What is our schedule? You know this 10 times better than I do. I show up and talk. You are the man behind the whole scene. For people that don't know, and I always say this, Tyler makes the whole process go here. I'm guessing we will do a show till Friday at 1:30.
That is correct. We'll have half a show on Friday because men's basketball at the Greenbrier tip-off will face Butler Friday at 2:30, and then they'll face Northwestern Sunday at 5. So, yeah, we'll do half a show on Friday, and then the game will be over 4, post-game coverage over by about 4:30. Jay and Terry will pick up after that and do about half a show then, too. But, yeah, kind of right smack dab in the middle of the day, so we'll be done at 1:30 Friday.
Half a show. Sounds like, you talk about me already enjoying, like, weekends and stuff. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Give me half a show on Friday.
It started even early.
What do you think? If we run a poll question,
Okay.
are people more excited for the basketball game against Butler? A chance to kind of measure up South Carolina on Friday. It's at 2 o'clock, and if you're like me, and I know a lot of you aren't, but if you're like me, it also is the Friday before Thanksgiving. There's some kind of odd lead-in that I get pure joy out of. But people more excited, if we run a poll, we might do this coming up. I just thought of this as I'm talking. More excited for the basketball game on Friday or the football game on Saturday?
Ooh, I think you might have a good shot at basketball winning that one. In fact, I will put that Twitter poll up right now on the 107.5 Game Twitter page. Go vote if you want to.
Tag us. Give us credit.
We'll keep an eye on that. The poll will end tomorrow, and we'll see how people feel.
Yeah, give you and I credit. We came up with that. That's our poll. Butler, by the way, for those of you interested, at this point is 3-1 on the season. They lost Saturday by 2 points on the road to SMU. Now their wins are Southern Indiana, IU, Indianapolis, and Chicago State. So they've done what South Carolina's done.
Right.
But 2 o'clock, CBS Sports Network, we'll have the coverage for you, as Tyler just mentioned. Pregame starting at 1:30, game starting at 2 o'clock. So a lot, as you just heard, a lot to get to. And we got great guests today. We got great guests, very fired up. John Strickland joins us. We're gonna try and get John Strickland very early in the next hour, about 1:10 actually, because there's a lot I want to pick on his brain. Everything from the game. He was in College Station this weekend. Want to get his assessment of the game. He also did part of the interview with our guy Jordan Kay on Demetrius Summers. I'd like to get into that a little bit with him. You never know where else John could take us with a little bourbon talk. He's going to be about 1:10 today, 1:15. We're going to get to him. Pat DeMarco. You've seen the tailgate talks. They're doing phenomenal. Him and Garcia, they're the great stuff. They just had John Abraham on, Tyler. But we're going to get Pat DeMarco's take. We hadn't talked to him in a long time. Pat is always very rational. Pat is always very level-headed. And I look forward to talking to him. That'll be, again, about 2:15 today.
Yeah, looking forward to that, hearing from those guys. And, John Strickland at least had a good barbecue in A&M.
He did.
So there's that.
He did. I saw the pictures, and they did look quite delicious. All right. We got, again, a lot to do, a lot to discuss. It's going to be a lot of fun. 803-404-6100. We're going to put that poll question out. You can go to the 107.5 The Game Twitter page. Make sure you tag us in that, Tyler, so people see our Twitter handles, and we get full credit for that because I'm very interested to see that. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner. It is the Halftime Show. It is Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder, and First Palmetto Bank. All right, I know you're probably thinking about your turkey next week. Maybe you're already thinking about Christmas presents and what you got to get to family. You also might be thinking about 2026 and what you are going to do with your home, things such as refinancing or remodeling. Do you know that you can get a loan through Jacob Crowder and First Palmetto Bank just by making a phone call? With the refinancing, maybe you can save money on your monthly mortgage payment. With the remodeling, maybe you can get a nice loan, be able to put in something brand new. Like, I don't know, a hot tub. A hot tub would be wonderful, right? Well, call Jacob Crowder and learn more today. 803-719-1005. Again, that's 803-719-1005. He helped me about 5 years ago. I trust and believe in Jacob and the way he does business, and I can guarantee you he's going to make everything work for you. So whether you're looking to buy, build, refinance, or remodel, call the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder, today.
All right, welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, along with you here on your Wednesday on the game. I do have that Twitter poll up, by the way, now at 107.5 The Game. It will stand for a whole day, so we'll get the final results this time tomorrow. But what are you more excited for this weekend? Football versus Coastal or men's basketball taking on Butler and Northwestern? And I guess it's not surprising right now. Butler Northwestern facing men's basketball does have the early lead, 83-6 to us 17.
Yeah, that's kind of. I mean, I don't know. I was talking to my father this morning, Tyler, about the football game Saturday. It'll be interesting to see what the crowd is. It'll be interesting to see what the mood of the crowd is, because I don't know if there's anger anymore in this crowd. Like we talked about I think it was the Oklahoma game, might have been Alabama. One of those two games where when South Carolina, if they went out and struggled, there might be boos very early on.
Sure.
I don't anticipate it. I mean, look, people are going to turn. It's going to be a beautiful day. It's going to be a great day for tailgating. This goes back to a couple years ago, the Jacksonville State game when South Carolina won, and I was like, that was the greatest game ever because it was a beautiful day.
Yep.
South Carolina won the football game, and I got to spend time with my kids.
Yeah, that's great. That's a triple threat. Great day.
That's all I ever asked for. And, and I think this Saturday, South Carolina's a 23.5-point favorite. What did you make of that line, by the way?
So I've been diving into Coastal a little bit already today, getting ready for the pregame show and stuff on Saturday, and I believe we're set up with Chance Miller tomorrow. Is that correct?
We are. Yep.
We'll talk to him about this Coastal team. Not great on defense. So I kind of see where that line comes from. Now, yeah, Carolina struggled to score points this year, but, I see where they crafted up 23.5.
Okay. All right. So, it's going to be beautiful weather. I think there's going to be a lot of families there. I don't think it's going to be the tailgating scene is not going to be the raucous, people overindulging kind of.
Sure.
So I'm personally kind of excited about it.
I do think it's a game where a lot of people go in. Look, we all love this team. We all want to see this team be successful. But like you mentioned, I think people are going to have a quick trigger if things go wrong. Like, all right.
Do you think people are? I feel like we've hit apathy.
Well, but if you're in attendance, though, and you feel like your voice can have an impact, right? I mean, let's go back to the Oklahoma game. The Fire Shula chants were pretty loud, and that was the same day that, Beamer said what he said to Jack. Made a change last week, Jack, where it felt like the frustration was boiling over a little bit at that point in time. Let's say Coastal wins the toss, they elect to receive, and they fly down the field and get a touchdown, and the offense comes out and goes 3 and out. I think at that point, a lot of people kind of let the frustrations be known of, hey, I know the season's already over, but we still don't like what we're seeing. We want some changes to be made.
I'll be interested. I know what you're saying. I'll be interested to see that, because it's kind of like at this point, I think we're assured. Now, do you find it strange? I'm kind of going off topic with you here.
No, that's cool. We had a lot of angles on this.
Do you find it strange that we have not? Because I've seen people have hit me up on Twitter. Maybe they've talked to you about it. I've seen it on message boards. People saying, Jeremiah Donati needs to speak. We need to hear. Why have we not heard from Jeremiah Donati?
How often do you hear from ADs?
You know what? Quite frankly, if you played a clip, 20% chance I get his voice right.
I mean, I'll be honest with you.
But you hear from ADs at the dreaded vote of confidence, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you sent out the statement, we believe in the coach and blah, 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 blah. We're going to run it back next year. And we almost kind of look at that as a kiss of death, right? Because typically, if you have to put out a statement, that means things are teetering and you're giving them one more chance. And maybe that's the way that he looks at things with Beamer. We don't know. But, yeah, I mean, Donati, he's got a lot going on, for one. And I will say this. He's been either in studio or on with Jay and Terry multiple times this year. Now, yeah, it's not happened as this season's gone off the rails, but he speaks quite a bit compared to what I feel like a lot of ADs do.
Do we need to hear from him?
I don't think we need to.
Does he need to make a statement between now and the Sunday after the Clemson game?
And to me, and maybe if you lose the last two games, somehow you lose to Clemson, Coastal this weekend, you lose to Clemson in the rivalry next weekend, then I think that probably warrants something, because I think the vitriol for calling for Beamer's job really gets to a fever pitch at that point. But if you end the season 5-7, I think we all know that Beamer's going to come back next year. I don't really think there's like a need for a statement to be made.
Okay.
In my opinion.
And I say that because I ask all of that to circle back to what we're talking about. I don't think... Unfortunately, I think Saturday ended Mike Furry's hopes of getting the offensive coordinator job.
Yeah, I'd say that's outside of, putting up 70 against Clemson next week. I'd say probably so.
And so even if you go and you observe a flatlined offense, I don't know if you get, I guess you can get upset. You can do whatever you want.
Right.
But I don't know if you get truly upset. And I say that because I don't know if it drives you to the point of booing, especially, again, I'm kind of anticipating more people with their kids. And I could be wrong, Tyler. Maybe there's a lot of parents out there that boo, and then they get their kids booing, and it's a whole family of booing affair. But
Well, where did we learn to yell at the TV during games? From our dad, more likely than not.
I don't, I got to give credit to my mom. And she passed away when I was 9.
Okay.
But my dad was, now I've seen him yell. I've seen him get upset about some games, but
Sure.
by and large, he's more of a calm at games person.
Okay.
Throughout my life, he gets upset about other things.
Well, you learn from a parent at least.
But what I remember of my mom when she was alive, she had no problem yelling at the TV.
Okay. Well, you learned it from someone.
I have a very good memory of her yelling in 1988 or 87 in the Gator Bowl when South Carolina was losing to LSU.
Yeah.
And scoring late, and her yelling at the TV at us because we scored late to make it like 34-10. So, anyway, I think it's going to be a laid back atmosphere on Saturday. I am interested to see the attitude of the team, Tyler, and what Shane Beamer has now, and you had it, perception versus reality, and what he's wanting to preach and what he's wanting to say. That clip is 2 minutes and 31 seconds, so we won't play it. But the mood of the team, the perception of the team, and the perception of who they are and sticking together and finishing out the season against the reality of where they are at mentally.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we only get to view things through the lens of what we see on Saturdays, what we hear when they talk to the media. If there's a clip of practice that comes out, we get to see that. But 95% of the stuff that happens during the week, we don't see. So, yeah, if you're having great practices, we don't see it. We hear about it, but we don't see it. We can only go off of what information we're given, and what we're given so far, this season has not been great, and that's where the frustration comes in. So, yeah, I do believe that when they look at how they practice and what they've got in their ability, and they probably do have a lot of confidence in the fact that they should be better than they are, but they're not doing it. And that's why we as fans, media people that don't have the inside access and our key cards don't work in the building, we can only go off of what we're given.
Never get to see these fights.
No, we don't get to see the fight. You know what? If they have a fight club for coaches within that building over there, we'll never know.
Never know. You don't talk about it.
Well, that's exactly the first rule. You don't talk about it.
Don't talk about it. And so, but no, circle back to that, I will vouch and validate. There's a lot of things I question about the program and the team, and it's okay to do that. When you're 3-7, it's okay to do that. I do not question if there was any confrontation. That did not happen. That was a false rumor, fake media, and again, just goes to show you we can put whatever we want on social media. That doesn't make it true. 803-404-6100. That's how you can get in touch with us. We'll come back and get a little bit more into that press conference. Shane Beamer continuing to preach closeness. Well, what does it actually mean? Tyler and I will try and dissect that. You're listening to the Halftime Show. 803-404-6100. Let's get a couple text messages real quick. Texter weighs in. Wish Beamer hated losing as much as he hates social media.
Oh.
That was actually from Mike.
Yeah.
It was fair.
Yeah.
It was fair. Another texter weighs in and said, was waiting on the basketball game. He said, this team might be sneaky good, like the team we had 2 years ago. We don't have a Talon Cooper, but way more excited about basketball after that game last night. Football can cancel the rest of the season and wouldn't make a difference to me.
Look, I think we've said this before. This basketball team's going to be fun. I don't know how successful overall they're going to be. I think we're in agreement. They're going to knock off some teams they probably have no business knocking off. They may lose some teams you probably think they shouldn't lose to. What that ends up being at the end of the year, I don't know. But I like what I've seen so far more than I did at this point a year ago.
803-404-6100. Another texter weighs in. Warren, thank you for listening, Warren. Get some new offensive linemen from Wake Forest. They are heavy into weight training, and they know how to block for Robbie Ashford. Well, I don't know about Wake Forest, but I get your point, and that'll be part of what Shane Beamer did say yesterday about as soon as the Clemson game ends, instantly moving to 2026.
Well, you have to. I mean,
good point.
And that includes early signing day, transfer portal, hiring an offensive coordinator. There's a lot to be done right at a month after this season ends, and not that it's a benefit because you'd much rather be playing in a bowl game and having the practices and stuff like that, but you can singularly focus on what it's going to take to make next season better and hope to do it.
803-404-6100. To the phone lines we go. Ted, my good buddy, wants to weigh in on Shane Beamer. Ted, nothing personal against Shane Beamer. Just keep it professional. What you got?
Oh, definitely. No, I've got some really, I think, very interesting things, but I hope you think so also.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I'll go back to when we played Illinois in the bowl game. I watched that game. I watched the offense. I watched what little bit they ran Sellers, and I said, well, maybe they're doing this because they don't want him to get hurt. We got a lot of new wide receivers coming in, blah, 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 blah. I didn't even like him when he coached that game. I said, I would not hire that guy. I would find me a good offensive coordinator that's got an imagination. He had no imagination. But they got rid of him. I'd have got rid of him a lot quicker than that, but whatever. Now, my problem with Beamer in that game with a lead like that, and all you had to do was watch the first two series, realize they were killing us on the line of scrimmage. And we were still running the same basic stupid balls up the middle. Our guys are getting beat up like crazy. My suggestion, and Beamer himself's the head coach, why can't he tell the offensive coordinator, doesn't he know enough about football to say, look, let's put in the two tight ends. Let's see if we can slow this thing down a little bit, have one tight end block, and then cut off a little bit and do a short pass to him, or have a halfback come out of the backfield, run the slant or whatever. But open the thing up. They tried to play conservative and thinking the other team wasn't going to score. Well, after they ran up and down the field twice, it was obvious that we couldn't stop them. It was amazing. That third down and fourth down and 15 just killed us. I mean, that was just unbelievable. We couldn't stop that play. But I blame Beamer for a lot of this offensive stuff. I would have never sat there all that time and watched the other offensive coordinator and keep running the ball 4th and 1 up the daggum middle. I said daggum, and I wanted to say a lot worse. But Bill, glad to have you back, and I like Beamer, and I really think if he can keep his players this coming year without losing everybody in the transfer portal, and if he can keep his recruits that we've got, because the guys seem to like him and everybody likes him, but he has got to keep this team together for next year. And if he doesn't, we're in trouble. That's all I got to say. But how about just respond to what I said? And I'm glad to have you back. Hope to see you soon too, buddy. Okay?
Yeah, thank you for the phone call. And I'm not picking on you. I obviously, there was a lot of people post-Illinois game that looked at Mike Shula and was kind of like, And there was a lot of people, and I'll put myself in categories like, hey, it's one game, settle down.
Sure.
Tyler, it's hey, and I was wrong. Clip that. Use it on openers.
Maybe rejoiner.
Yeah. It didn't work out, and I know it's easy. It's easy to sit here on November 19th and say, well, it didn't work out, but it didn't. And now Shane Beamer, I think, is going to get the chance to fix it. I believe he should. I might be in the minority on that, but I believe he should get the opportunity in the offseason to fix it. I know that it's, as Heath Klein pointed out on Monday, it's technically offensive coordinator hired number 5.
Yep.
And we'll see how he does. I mean, it's going to define, it's going, good or bad. And this goes back, and this is the next point of what Ted's talking about making decisions and telling people what to do. This hire, if indeed he's the guy that makes it, which again, I am under the assumption he will be, doesn't just define his career at the University of South Carolina, Tyler. It probably defines his head coaching career. It's hard for me to say that if this doesn't work out here, I guess there's a smaller school that gives him another chance. Mm-hmm. He's got an 8-win season and a 9-win season. But people aren't going to be beating down the door to hire Shane Beamer, and so it is very possible that this hire will not only define – he'll go find a job as an assistant.
Sure.
He'll be perfectly fine there if he wants to stay in the business. But that this hire not only defines the South Carolina career, but it defines his head coaching career and what the future holds.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you bring up because, again, not saying I'm hoping for this to happen, but let's say it's a bad hire. They go out there and they go 4-8 next year and you move on from him. Yeah, I don't know how many people look at his, at that point, 6-year tenure and say, yeah, man, that's a guy we want to bring in here to our Power 4 program and lead us. I think you'd have to work your way back up. I'm not saying you couldn't do it, but you'd have to go the G5 route or something like that, or become a coordinator or assistant somewhere and get yourself to a head coaching job once again that way. So, yeah, it's important on a lot of fronts for this program and for Beamer himself.
Let's go back to the phone lines and appreciate the phone call, Ted. Good to hear from you. Larry is next up. Larry, how you doing this afternoon? What's on your mind?
Doing great. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Hey, listen, all right. First of all, when we're looking for an offensive coordinator, and I understand Coach Elliott doesn't really want the offensive line position permanently. But, all right, so let's look at how to do this, okay? First of all, we don't hire anybody from a 2A school, or you know what I'm saying, FBS, whatever, okay? What we do is we recruit from coaches in the top 10, and here's how you do it. Okay, first of all, you sell the University of South Carolina. You don't sell what we've done in wins and losses. You sell the University of South Carolina and the football facilities and what's getting ready to happen. $355 million in the offseason. That's a pretty big investment. 2, you give them a little tour around the university. 3, you take them out to Lake Murray and you tell them this. Okay, now here's part of the package we're going to offer you. We're going to buy you a house out here on one of the most beautiful lakes in America, best bass fishing you could ever hear of. Oh, and you'll have a private dock and a boathouse. Okay? Now, that sounds like a lot of money. But if you want a top 10 coach, you're going to have to ante up, you know? And, again, we don't want an up-and-coming coach from a top 30 team. We want somebody in the top 10. And that means we're going to have to steal them away from another program. Okay, because a lot of them, okay, whatever, A&M, it's a good school. They're in College Station, Texas. You know, you might be playing for a good or coaching at a good university. Where the hell are you living, man? Unseat your head from your you-know-what. Okay, look what's available and the kind of money we're willing to pay and the facilities that we have. I mean, between flying jobs, when I got furloughed for a little while, I worked for contract construction. I helped build the USC football center across the street from the stadium. We have the best facilities, you know, players and coaches could ever want. But we got to offer a little bit more. If we're going to spend $355 million on a stadium, trust me, we got money. We've always had money. We're just too stupid to spend it correctly. Kind of follow me?
Yeah, and I appreciate the phone call.
We're fired up today.
Yeah, good phone call like that. A lot to kind of readdress from that. there's a lot that Larry just said that's true about, and I said that a couple weeks ago about South Carolina. Look, I know you fans don't want to hear it, and I understand why. South Carolina's facilities are good. They're better than average. I think one of the more recent polls I saw back in the summer, something has them about mid of the SEC. Tyler, and we got to hit a break here. Some of this is going to just go hire whoever I don't care if whoever runs the triple option.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm like a lot of you. I'm a fan. I'm a homer. You know what? Win games. Don't hire someone who runs the oop-de-oop. Go get Jonathan Moxon from Varsity Blue. I don't care.
So we run the annexation of Puerto Rico from
Yeah.
what, Little Giants.
Yeah. Whatever it takes to win football games. We got to hit the break. Come back. I see you, Luke. We'll get to you, and we'll continue along the phone lines as well. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner from Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years they have been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. Now, they do a phenomenal job. I mean, obviously, when you're the leader for 30 years, you are doing something right. But the thing that stands out to me when I've had to work with Larry Leitner and the family is the customer service. They want to get the job done right. Whether it's your business or your home, Mid-State Roofing is there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they want to make sure that they keep your operation dry and running long into the future. So, of course, you got a beautiful day like today. You're not thinking about a leak in your roof. But you know what? You need to. You never know when we're going to get one of those heavy winter rainstorms or something, and the next thing you know, you got an issue. Call today for a maintenance contract and speak with an on-call technician. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. That's Mid-State Roofing. I see you on the text line. We'll get to a bunch of you here coming up. Tony and Gilbert, I think, agrees with me. Whatever it takes. Tyler, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
serious. Just win.
Yeah, if you win, and, as we'll get to, Beamer called a shot for where this team's going to be at a year from now. If you achieve those goals, I don't care what it looks like. Look, the Philadelphia Eagles are not the prettiest offense in the world, but you know what? They got a good defense and they win games, and they got a shot at winning, the Super Bowl. And you can't convince a team in Philly that they're not capable of that, no matter how the offense looks at times. So yeah, same mindset. If you find a way to win, pretty, ugly, somewhere in between, that's all we care about.
Was Billy Bob Thornton the offensive coordinator in Friday Night Lights, or was he just the head coach?
He was the head coach.
But was he the coordinator? I don't remember.
He may have called plays. I can't remember. It's been a while.
Put him on the list.
Yeah. I have to go back and check that. He was the head coach for the Bad News Bears as well, which right now may be more comparable for where things are at.
And well, I think he's got some time off. He just shot Landman, which started again.
Well, he's doing those T-Mobile commercials
That's
now.
true. He's got some free time.
Yeah.
Offense coordinator. I don't know. Let's find out what happens. Let's
By
go
the way,
back.
You ever look at him like, Angelina Jolie? Really?
He's come around. Not to go off time. We got people on the phone line, but he's come. I'm actually a huge Billy Bob.
Oh, I'm a fan of him, but
I'm actually not a huge fan.
he pulled Angelina Jolie. That's impressive.
Well, that was those days.
That was a while ago.
They were living.
That's
that
true.
was. Oof. That's another segment. That's another day. 803-404-6100. Back to the phone lines. Luke, thank you for calling in, buddy. What's on your mind today?
Just wanted to say, man, it's a pleasure listening to you during the your show here now in the middle of the day. I love it.
Thank you.
I was almost lost there for a little bit, but that's besides the point. I know I'm going to be in the minority, but, I'm looking at Shane Beamer's tenure, and a lot of people have been asking on the internet, who had made it out of what he's in right now. And, and they said something about Mike Norvell and his record, but if you look at Steve Spurrier, right there where he was, he didn't have super spectacular years up until probably 6 and 7, years 6 and 7. And Shane Beamer has, if you look just last year, we almost made it to the playoffs. And the year before that, we beat the fool out of Tennessee. We beat Clemson. I mean, he's won some special games here in his tenure, and I just feel like that earns him another year. I feel like he can right this ship. I mean, I feel like we're close. We've been, even though we've lost these games this year, I feel like we've been in most every game we've played, so I feel like we're close. I mean, what do you think?
Tyler and I were going to discuss that, and we might circle back to that. Thank you for the phone call, Luke, man. Really appreciate it. And don't be a stranger. Call back again. We've talked about that. 5 games this year, Tyler, that they've either had the lead or gone to the fourth quarter with down a touchdown. I will admit, I'm trying, and this is something that you and I in December will get into more when we know the future.
Yeah.
I'm trying to justify and rectify that in my mind of what does that mean. And you had it written down. We were going to get into that 2 segments ago.
Yeah.
And we started going to callers, which is great, and I appreciate all the interaction. But I don't know what it means right now because it's a cop-out, an excuse, but it is also the legitimate truth.
It is. And again, when you break these games down, it's not like you're getting blown out by 50 points. So, yeah. And look, there is nothing that Shane Beamer can say right now in a press conference or in an interview during the game or anything that's going to calm this fan base's nerves because of the way the season's gone. When you look back at the games, yeah, okay, if you do a couple things differently against Alabama, you win that game. Do a couple things differently against A&M, you win that game. And
I feel like if you do like one thing differently,
yeah,
I feel like that's a game where it just took one thing.
Listen, if you stop Marcel Reed on that 4th and 12, and you go on any kind of drive and score any kind of points, even if it's just a field goal, that might be enough. That might have just put the game far enough out of reach to when A&M got the ball back. Even if they did start scoring after that, they may not have been able to mount that kind of comeback. We won't know. Hindsight's 2020, obviously. We won't know, but that might have been enough to change the outcome of a game like that. If you hit one more explosive play against Missouri, who knows what happens there? Like again, and I hate that we're in a situation where we're having to ask these what-if questions, but again, you aren't getting blown out by 50 points, so there is something to say for that.
Let's get back to the phone lines. Scott, we don't have but about a minute left, but go ahead, weigh in with your thoughts.
Oh, turn the radio down, Scott.
Hey, Scott. Now we got 45 seconds.
Shot clock, real quick. Oh,
Okay, we'll come. That's
it might have to, we'll
strike
come
three.
back
We
to him
don't
on the
give
other
strike
side.
threes around here. Yeah, Scott
Yeah.
comes on in the next hour. No, we'll throw Scott in the next hour.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, let me get to some of these texts. A lot of y'all are weighing in. And I think weighing in, by the way, shows, Tyler, that there's not as much apathy as maybe I thought when the show started.
Right.
And that's a good thing. Maybe there will be booing on Saturday. I don't know. I'll get to the text messages. Some of y'all agreeing with our caller Larry. Some of y'all not agreeing with him. And Beth from Lamar weighing in and saying the Eagles, I think, was it you who brought up the Eagles?
Yeah.
So the Eagles can get a 4th and 1.
They can. That's very true.
Beth also says she enjoys men's basketball. We'll talk more about basketball as well. Hour 2, John Strickland at about 1:10 on the way. It is Wednesday, and it's going to be beautiful. And I got to admit, I got up this morning and asked Alexa what the temperature is going to be. She said 80, and I thought, man, it's a great night to grill out. I'm thinking salmon. So that means right after I leave here, I'm stopping by Old Timey Meat Market in Lexington, and I really, really encourage you to do the same. The reason I love Old Timey Meat Market, the reason I make it my butcher and my place to go for great steaks, for chicken, for fish, for pork chops, for other things like soups or morning biscuits, is because it's a non-grocery store meat buying experience. They want to know your name. They know mine. They know my kids. They know that Austin loves a great steak. They know Ansley loves fish. And see, they want to do the same with you. They want to be your local butcher where it is a family-type atmosphere when you walk in and you pick out that next delicious meal. So stop by one of their 3 locations, South Congaree, St. Andrews Road, Irma, or the Lexington store, and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. It is 1 o'clock on a Wednesday. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, as we roll along. We got a poll question out there for you. Go to Twitter. That's right. That thing that Shane Beamer's not a fan of. Can't say I'm a fan of. You can put all kinds of stuff on Twitter. Doesn't have to be true, right? We've seen that?
Yeah. In fact, a lot of stuff on Twitter isn't true.
Well, there's a lot.
Yeah, so be careful.
Very good point. We can all. I went down a rabbit hole the other night. Couldn't sleep. There's certain nights I don't sleep. And
Yeah.
I did that chat GPT thing where you can kind of change the pictures of you. I got to show you the one I did where I look very muscular.
Okay. All right. So now we're playing with AI.
Yeah, dangerous.
It's
Weapon.
very dangerous. AI's gotten very good these days to where I've seen a few videos and I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then the little like community notes like, this is AI. I'm like, well, I was fooled.
Yeah. I ought to post that picture of me.
Now, see, you shouldn't have said it was that. You shouldn't have told us that. You should have just posted the picture. Be like, wow, man, you've been working out lately.
Tyler, if you saw this picture, you would be like,
Is it very obvious it's not real?
I'm going to put it on the live stream.
Okay.
All right, go to our live stream. Go to YouTube, the TV, game
goodness.
TV. All right, let's see here. You see, if you're on our live stream, you can see it's a little blurry. You see that there, Tyler?
Okay. Yeah.
Does that pass? Does that pass for me? It's blurry.
So I'm looking at it from a distance because the screen is small. So you know what? If I'm squinting a little bit, I could say yeah.
Okay, if you're squinting, thank you.
I'm squinting.
Yeah. If you're blind, basically, if you're blind, you
Listen, you put it on Facebook, you'll fool somebody.
I also know that people put stuff on Facebook and Twitter, and they trick people all the time. It's all part. Welcome to 2025.
That's right.
803-404-6100. But we got a poll question. Go to Twitter at Will WIL Gunter GUNTER. You can also hit him up and harass him a little bit. You can harass Tyler at TylerHead18 is the way to do that. Give us some follows. Check us out. Engage with us and talk. And we'll go from there. The poll, because South Carolina plays what I think is going to be a kind of an exciting basketball game on Friday against Butler. They also play Northwestern on Sunday. Are you more excited about the basketball this weekend or the football? Right now, 81.5% going with basketball, 18.5% going with football, Tyler.
Yeah, sounds about right. And look, I think part of it also comes from the fact that we're still learning things about this basketball team, right? They've not played high-level competition yet to really get us a gauge of how good or bad they might end up being. We know too much about this football team, and nothing. I've been saying this week, this team is in a purgatory right now because there's nothing you can do in the next 2 weeks against Coastal and Clemson that makes us really feel any better about this team. You can do some things that make you feel worse, but you can't really improve on what the season's been, even if you did finish 5-7. They just are what they are, and that, to a lot of people, is not exciting, as opposed to Paris's team, where we've seen a lot of fun and exciting things in the first handful of games, and I think we're all intrigued to see how that matches up with opponents more in line with what you're going to see night in, night out once the calendar turns to January.
I will say, and this will be part of our discussion next week. Reminder, will be on Monday through Wednesday and then back on Friday to get you ready for Clemson week. Part of the discussion is going to be, what does a victory mean next week over Clemson? Mm-hmm. Like 5-7 is, if hypothetically South Carolina wins on Saturday, they should. They're a 23.5-point favorite. If they win, they would be 4-7. 5-7 is 5-7, and there's no justification in year 5 for being 5-7. Also, by the way, in a year where you didn't have significant injuries, right?
Right. Yeah, they're 23. We could look at the offensive line, everybody going down there. Juice Wells getting hurt early on in the season, and saying, okay, there's some things you can look at and say, all right, if this guy or these guys played, maybe your season's better. But I mean, yeah, you lost Case and Henry, halfway through the year, but I don't think that was as detrimental.
No, I think
detrimental difference.
I don't want to knock him. I think you replaced him with an upgrade. That's me. That's not you. That's not anybody here. I think Case and Henry was playing better. I think Tree Babalade was it was an upgrade, and I think he's played well.
Yeah, injuries are not an excuse for why this season's turned out the way that it has.
803-404-6100. So, again, go to Twitter at Will, WIL Gunter, GUNTER, at TylerHead18 is how you can do that. You can vote on our poll question there. We'll talk more basketball. Last night, South Carolina blows out Radford. They get set for Butler. Butler 3-1 on the season. On Friday, 2 o'clock, again, Southern Indiana, IU, Indianapolis, and Chicago State are their victories. South Carolina's obviously not really much better. By the way, Butler losing to SMU. That was their one loss on Saturday. South Carolina with wins over North Carolina A&T, Southern Miss, Presbyterian, and now Radford 87-58 last night. We'll talk more basketball this hour. John Strickland coming up here in about 10 minutes. Let's get back. All right, are we ready? Do we think Scott's got it down?
We're going to give him another shot.
All right, Scott, this is it. Don't let us down. I know you call in a lot. You should be a professional. That was kind of a bummer, the last segment. What do you got for us?
Well, we don't only have problems with play calling. We have problems with making adjustments at halftime or during the game on the fly, game time adjustments, and also game management and time management. You know, we wasted our first 2 timeouts in the second half, and then we wasted our third one because the little ones took the sack. So we wasted all 3 of our timeouts. We did not need to call the 2 previous ones. So I sent y'all a text. I don't know that it's been acknowledged, but the guy a couple calls ago, yeah, we show him Lake Murray, we show him the University, we show him all that. But we got to go out and get a man that is smart in football. Not only in play calling, clock and game management, we got to get a superstar. We're going to have to pay big bucks to do that. He can buy his own house wherever he wants to. You can show him Lake Murray. But we're going to have to probably pay an offensive coordinator and lure somebody away, like just an example, Bobo. He's one example. And there's plenty others. But we're going to probably have to pay him anywhere from $2.5, $3 million to $4 or $5 million to lure a group that we need it. We desperately need it. And that's what it's going to take. We're going to have to go out and make a big hire. Dabo, he's not now since we don't have Jeff Scott and Venables anymore. When he had Jeff Scott and Venables, he was a great coach. He's a good public relations guy. Shane Beamer's a good public relations guy. Everybody loves him. All the players love him. And we got to have that. But the game of football and knowing the game of football is a different thing. And we need somebody smart in football. We need a superstar. We're going to have to pay big bucks to get it.
Appreciate the phone call.
I will say the Beamer does need to address some of the time management stuff this offseason,
Yes.
too. I don't know.
Did losing Pete Limbo hurt him?
It may have, because, again, Limbo was the assistant coach and theoretically was helping out in those kind of scenarios. And I will say, and this is not discrediting Joe D, because I'm sure he's assisting in that stuff too, but there's been a clear regression in some of those, especially late game scenarios when it comes to managing time, managing timeouts. And Saturday's a perfect example. You blew 10 seconds there before halftime where you could have taken a couple shots to the end zone or something along those lines, or continue to run your offense and maybe you're up 34-3 instead of 30-3 at halftime. Like, those kind of things have happened too many times this year. You got to look yourself in the mirror on that one for sure.
I agree. 803-404-6100. Again, thank you for the phone call, Scott. We'll come back. John Strickland will join us. A lot to get into with him. He was interviewed a little bit for that Demetrius Summers article. We'll get his take on that. We'll get his take on his trip to College Station. Tyler, I might be ready to make a hot take. I think I kind of did this last week.
Okay.
I think College Station is my number one SEC road trip.
Oh, do we need to power rank these things?
That is probably not for today, but I do think that is coming up in December or something.
Sounds good.
I think that is coming up. I think so. 803-404-6100. I will get to those text messages. Keep sending them in. I see them. I see all of you out there. And I'll get to those and make sure I give your voice a chance to be heard as well. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner. It is the Halftime Show. John Strickland up next.
Send it to me. All right, here for our friends over at Pro Swing Columbia, 2 locations out at Forest Acres and in Chapin. As we head into these cold winter months, you don't want to have to stop your golf game, and that's where Pro Swing comes in. They've got golf zone simulators that allow you to play golf all year long, no matter what the weather is outside, and all over the world with tons of courses to choose from. They also have free 30-minute swing evaluations, so you can work on your swing, and they'll give you a blueprint of your swing and a couple pointers to work on, as well as drills to make you a better overall golfer. Lesson packages are available from beginners to scratch golfers as well, and from kids to adults. You can get discounted rates to practice and play at Pro Swing if you're actively taking lessons as well. They are also a tailor-made dealer and have club fittings too. Book online at ProSwingColumbia.com or give them a call at 803-592-3916 for more info. Pro Swing Columbia in Forest Acres and in Chapin.
He is a man that knows about bourbon and barbecue. And initially at the University of South Carolina was my backup at the center position. Again, you can say pretty much whatever you want around here now, and we don't know if it's true or false. John Strickland joining us this afternoon, fresh off a trip to College Station. You said it was the 6th time you've been out there for a game.
Yeah, I've been out there, I want to say either the 5th or 6th. It's one of the two, but I've only missed one or two times since we've been playing A&M out in College Station.
Best road trip in the SEC?
No, but it is a really good one, though. I'd rank it top 3 or 4.
You, whatever day I texted you last week, I don't remember. You were out there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You sent me a beautiful picture of barbecue. Give us a run. Where were you at? I think you said you were in Montgomery, Texas. Where were you at? What was on that plate? You didn't put it on social media, which left everybody just confused. We all wanted to know what you had. I had to explain it over the air. What is the barbecue? What is John Strickland's go-to barbecue in College Station or out there?
Well, this was my first time at this place. It's a Texas monthly top 50 joint. It's called Bar A Barbecue. It's in Montgomery, Texas. Montgomery, Texas is actually the city that created the Texas flag. But it's about 50 minutes from College Station and about probably 40, 50 minutes from Houston, so it's kind of right in the middle. But, yeah, we just want to go over there. I've been wanting to try it for a while. And, we just went with fatty brisket, some ribs, turkey breast slices, some of their smoked chicken, and a little bit of pulled pork. So it was fantastic.
Are you a better eater now? And I don't mean health-wise, but can you put away more food like that now at 43? I think you're 43 or around my age, or at 22 when you were not only in your football prime, but your I think probably your eating prime.
Yeah, definitely the 20s.
Okay.
I mean, back then I was 310, 315. Today I weigh about mid-250s, 260s. So I'm about 50, 60 pounds lighter than I used to be.
That's all right. All right. Well, you're doing a great job. Glad you could join us this afternoon. We'll get to South Carolina, the A&M game and everything right now in your opinions, but I do want to bring this topic back up. You got interviewed by Jordan Kay recently, for the Demetrius Summers article. I played. Demetrius was a freshman. I was a senior. We were on the same basketball team at Lexington together. If he doesn't tip in a ball against Dorman in the upper state championship, we don't go to the state championship and win. I've known Demetrius since I was little. What do you remember You had a quote in there about the Tennessee game that y'all played, I think, in 03 up there. I believe it was 03, might have been 04. What do you remember about him?
Yeah, I mean, Demetrius, man, he was a good dude. He was a good dude. He was quiet, soft-spoken, but man, he was a great running back. And yeah, that Tennessee game is the one that always pops in my head. I mean, even though we lost in overtime that game, but I think Demetrius had over 160 yards that game, and I mean, we were just blocking him up, and Demetrius could just cut and find holes. That's what he was so good at. He could just his peripheral vision and being able to read what the linemen were doing on their blocks and get through the hole and make the cutbacks. I mean, it was kind of like Lattimore was. But yeah, no, Demetrius, great guy. I texted him on Facebook not too long ago. I think it was his birthday or something. So, but yeah, had some good times with him.
Yeah, we won't go down the path of everything else, but obviously you playing with him and seeing him, and of course I grew up with him. I watched what he was capable of doing at Lexington, and unfortunate situation when he got to South Carolina and just how things kind of played out. But I do remember that Tennessee game. I remember watching it from my home where I was living in college, and yeah, he was phenomenal. He was absolutely phenomenal. There was a play I always remember. He ran like a wheel route down the left. It was on TV. It was down the left sideline, and who was the quarterback? Was that Pinkins that was the quarterback in 03, I think? And threw a pass, and Demetrius out-jumped two guys, jumped between them, out-jumped them, called it essentially parallel to the ground and landed on his back for a first down. And, it's just unfortunate. Some of it his doing, some of it other stuff, but what could have been and something maybe we'll address later on. But let's get to what you saw. You were there in person. Give me the vibe of the stadium, how you're sensing it, how you're feeling it. In the first half, and unfortunately against the vibe of the stadium as A&M started their comeback in the second half. Oh, and John just texted me. And, okay. And, well, all right, we'll get back to him in a second. And Tyler's had to step out. And, all right, I tell you what, I can't hit a break either. Let me see if I can get Dave in there. Dave, can you? All right, well, let's do it. We're going to hit a break. Dave, if you can hit it, take us to break. We're going to get John Strickland back on the phone and go to that. If you can get me to a break, let's get John back on the phone and we'll roll with him. You're listening to the Halftime Show. All right, live radio at its absolute finest there, but we've got John Strickland back. Gamecock John Strickland, who was in College Station this weekend. And, John, I don't know where you dropped. I don't know what the last thing you heard is, but I'll repeat what I was asking you. You were there. You were in the stadium. From a fan's perspective, from your perspective, the vibe you felt in the first half in that stadium against the vibe that you kind of felt coming on in the second half as you were watching what was unfolding?
Well, the vibe in the first half was just like when we went to Oklahoma last year. I was at that game. So it had the same vibe, but this game was just even more exciting. And actually, my voice was about gone by halftime, honestly. So I had to kind of chill out the second half. But, I looked over and told my wife once halftime hit, I was just like, well, let's don't get too pumped up here now because we've struggled in the second half of games all year, and A&M's been one of the best teams in the second half all year. So I said, yeah, it's 27 points, but, let's don't get too pumped up. But, I mean, the vibe was great first half, and then for the A&M fans, the vibe was great the second half. So my stepson's actually a junior at A&M, so they had a lot of fun second half versus us.
Did you have a moment in that second half where you're like, oh, no, this is where it goes sideways?
Yeah, 4th and 12. Or the 4th and 12.
I think a lot of people would agree with you on that one.
Yep, that was, to me, that was the difference in the ball game. That just swung everything in their way.
I've commented, I was at Alabama last year, and the Alabama faithful in that game, they knew that, of course, they were coming off the loss to Vanderbilt, but they knew they were on the ropes. And I go back to that particular day and say it feels like South Carolina, I think they knew what was coming, everything that was going on. And I bring this up because then Lenore Sellers and Rocket Sanders fumbled. Bama went in, and it changed the mood. What was the mood like? Was it? Could you tell shock? Could you tell exasperation? What was like the mood of the A&M fan base as the first half is unfolding?
Oh, they were stunned. I mean, they were. You could see it in some of them's faces. They were ready to walk out the stadium. I mean, they were stunned big time.
So, in terms of the game, and now with the new offense coordinator, Mike Furrey, what was your assessment of the offense? A lot of people are questioning whether the South Carolina kind of took their foot off the gas in the second half. They played conservative. What was John Strickland's assessment of both the offensive line, which struggled, but also Mike Furrey running the offense and what you saw, and if you saw a significant difference in play calls from the first half to the second half?
Well, I'll say this. I don't think the offensive line struggled. I actually thought they played probably their best game of the year if we're looking at it as a whole. Now, did we struggle to get some running going in the second half? 100% we did. But, all that's not on the O-line. I mean, the 4th and 1, the tight end just got his butt kicked. And that's why you didn't get that first down on that 4th and 1 there in the third quarter. But another problem is, I mean, we just missed some open receivers. I mean, we had some guys open and just didn't put the ball in the receiver's hand, whether it's behind or overthrown or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, they maybe tried to run a little bit more and maybe, take some time off the clock, but we were still trying to throw the ball, and it just wasn't clicking, unfortunately.
How much value do you put on where a coordinator is located during the game? Of course, Shula spent his time on the sideline. Mike Furrey was up in the press box, and obviously in the first half it looked like things were going great. Does it matter to you where that coordinator is in terms of what they see and how they can kind of feel the game out?
Now, me personally, I like the press box just because you can see everything the defense is doing, and it's harder to see it from the field, but you do have other guys in the press box that are watching the same thing. So I think really it's just wherever you feel comfortable at. I mean, Steve Spurrier, caught all plays from the sideline, and you see how he did. So I don't think it really matters. I think it's just the comfort level for the coordinator. But me personally, I would like to be in the press box.
He is, again, John Strickland joining us this afternoon. John, in your opinion now, the question will turn to these final two games. I think every year that you played, bowl eligibility was always up for grabs up until the Clemson game, if I remember correctly. How do you believe this team mentally will handle now not being able to get bowl eligible, and toss in the fact that transfer portal and NIL and all these different things that weren't around when you played?
Yeah, I mean, listen, just from knowing from these previous teams and this year's team, I mean, there's been no quitting these guys. I mean, they could have put their head down like 3 weeks ago and just moped around and not cared. You can tell they care, and I guarantee you these guys are going to care about both of these next games, with it being in-state schools. So I'm not too worried about the guys being up for the game and playing for it. This team's really young. We don't have a lot of seniors, but I know those seniors will be ready to roll. I want to expand on this a little bit.
Go ahead.
So, here's the crazy thing about this season. I don't know what's missing. I just can't figure it out. I mean, you just go down the list. I mean, you start the Vandy game. It's a one-score game in the second half, but your starting quarterback gets knocked out the game. Okay, so we're gonna say, hey, congratulations, Vandy, you beat our backup quarterback that hasn't played quarterback in 3 years. Congratulations, you won that game. But all the rest of them, the Missouri game, you got the lead in the fourth. The LSU game, you got the early lead. It's a one-score game going into to the fourth. The OU game, it's a one-score game in the second half. The Bama game, you have the lead late in the fourth. Ole Miss game, you take the early lead, and it's a one-score game going into the fourth. And then what happened last weekend? You got a 27-point lead going into the second half, and then you're still up by one score in the fourth quarter, and you can't close any of these games out. Now, I don't know. I don't want to say this because I'm not in that room. I'm not out there on that field, but I'm just going off my experiences. With this being a younger team and not having those old guys like they had last year on defense, I just feel like there's a little bit of lack of leadership on this team, and I could be wrong. This is just all speculation because something's up. Like all those games I just ran through, and I'm leaving off the Vandy game because the quarterback was hurt. All those games, last year's team finds a way to win those games, or at least wins half of them. This year, I mean, we just can't do it. I just don't understand it. And you see how close, that whole list I just went through, you see how close this team is. And Beamer's right when he says it. I know people don't want to hear it. This team is so close to being probably 8-2 right now. Maybe 9-1 if something crazy were to happen in some of these games if you could just finish the game. So the talent on this roster is here. I mean, this is some of the best talent that's ever been on a South Carolina roster ever. I mean, you name me another time you've had 4 or 5-star guys starting on offense and defense. It's never happened here. So what's going on? Is it something with the coaching? I don't know. But, Beamer says he's going to get it fixed. Well, we're going to need to see these results here sooner than later. It needs to start getting fixed this week because, last week was very embarrassing. It was very embarrassing.
Let me go back to what you brought up. I've been saying this for a while as it pertains to leadership. And being in a football locker room, John, explain to me. I think there's a difference between leadership and true alpha male leadership. And because I think Lenore Sellers is a leader. That doesn't – but there's a different kind of – do you agree with what I'm saying? Like, I feel like guys in the past would have – and you just kind of mentioned it – would have willed the team to a victory. And there's just a different leadership. And I think you might have – Preston has told me about this, that maybe y'all kind of had that in 2021 as opposed to 2022 and 2023 when you couldn't close out bowl eligibility.
Yeah. So, I know you're talking about 2000, 2001 season, and then I think we had it in the 04 season as well, which we finished 6-5.
Right.
Which that team, we had no business being 6-5. That team should have been, 8-3 at worst that year, and probably we lost a lot of close games that year. But I think the end of the season fell off because Coach Holtz decided to tell us he was stepping down at the end of the season. I wish he would have waited till the end of the season. But I think we had the leaders on that game, on that team too. And last year you saw the leadership. You want some dogs. Where are the dogs at? I haven't seen many of them. Where's your DJ Swearingers at? Where are those guys at? Those are the kind of guys that lead a team and make sure that all those games I went through where we're leading in the fourth, or there's one score in the fourth, or you're leading the game early and you give up the lead. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen it. And we got to find it. And, I love Coach Beamer. Hey, I sat on Skype or Teams or whatever it was with Coach Tanner the Saturday of the Missouri game in 2020, and he asked a bunch of us former players, well, he wanted our input on who we thought, we should hire. And Beamer was my pick, and it was probably the majority of the guys' pick. Now, all the guys weren't on board with it, but Beamer was the one name that kept coming up. So, and I know fans want to talk about, blaming Ray Tanner and all this and that. Well, no, this was a good hire. It just hasn't worked out. It worked out last year. Everybody had fun last year. But, it's just there's something about this team this year that's just not clicking on all cylinders. And, I want Beamer here for a long, long time. I mean, I'll be happy if he coaches here the rest of his life. But he's going to have to find out a way to get this thing fixed. And he's going to this OC hire is going to be the biggest decision of his life, work-wise.
So let's look at the other side of what happened on Saturday, that being A&M's comeback. And I thought Elko had an interesting comment on Monday when asked about it. It wasn't some speech in the locker room. He said, hey, we won this game 6-7 months ago with what we were doing in the offseason, the winter and stuff like that. And that begs the question of, okay, what was South Carolina not doing in the offseason that led to them collapsing in the second half like they did? So what kind of things is Elko talking about that you're doing in the offseason that can help you win and have a comeback like that?
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, every team does the same thing. That was just more like coach speak on his part a little bit. Everybody's doing winter workouts. Everybody's doing summer workouts. Everybody's busting their tail at during spring ball. So every team's doing that. That was just more so coach speak. Now, I wish I had an answer for you on what maybe that could have been done different or should have been done different, but I'm not in that building every day to be able to, tell anybody what anybody should do different. But obviously there's some issues, and whether it's the leadership on the team, not understanding how to finish a football game, maybe some decisions on the coaching side needs to be cleaned up. The timeout before halftime, I'm yelling at my wife, like, you saw the referee wind his arm. That means the clock's still running. So you don't really need somebody else to tell you need to call a timeout. You got to call a timeout there. So we lost a play right there. And guess what? If you score a touchdown there, maybe this game ends differently and we're winning. So there's just some stuff that has to be cleaned up. And Coach knows this. He knows, and he says he's going to get it fixed. So it's just time to get in meetings, get in the film room, and get stuff cleaned up. And guys need to come with maybe figure out their mindset, a different mindset. There's been a few blunders, with mental stuff this season too, with guys going the wrong way on blocks, blocking the wrong bird. I mean, there's been all kind of stuff. It's got to get cleaned up. But I will tell you this: the O-line has gotten better than when I talked to you a few weeks ago on here, since Sean Elliott has taken over that position.
John, we always appreciate it. Keep you longer than I promised today. We had that little technical glitch, but that's an incredible amount of insight. I'm going to get it up on the podcast if you're just tuning in so you can hear what he had to say, and we look forward to catching up with you. If we don't do it by next Thursday, hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving, and definitely get you in studio to have a little barbecue talk at some point in the near future.
All right, guys. Enjoyed it as always. Y'all have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see how the rest of these last two games go.
We definitely will. And definitely will. And again, get your take on Turkey next week if we can get you back on, buddy. Take care and have a great weekend.
All right, thanks.
John Strickland there. We'll come back. Let's address what he had to say, wrap up the hour, and get you set for hour number 3. You're listening to The Halftime Show. It is 1:46 on a Wednesday. Reminder, Patrick DeMarco, we're not done with the guests today and the opinions. And that was some strong stuff there. I thought that was strong stuff. Very insightful from John Strickland. And if you missed any of it, we'll get it up on the podcast page, and you can listen to it. I agree, Tyler, with pretty much everything he said, from leadership to Shane Beamer to the team. We've talked about it, the close calls this year. I thought he did a lot of hammer meets nail there when it came to assessing South Carolina in 2025.
Well, when you're in the situation that Carolina's in, there's nothing that isn't worth examining at this point. And that's what Beamer and this entire program are going to have to do as soon as the clock hits zero against Clemson coming up next Saturday is, okay, 2026 starts now. What's good? What's bad? What do we need to get out? What do we need to bring in? And really trying to reset this thing, because we've talked about, yes, next year is make or break. Like if Coach Beamer, and we'll get to what he said about where he expects the team to be on this exact day next year, coming up here in a little bit. If they're not there, and if they're in a similar boat to where they're at right now, then we're talking about a new head coach. I don't think anybody has any doubts about that.
The leadership thing is just fascinating, because I don't think any of us can put a finger on it. But what he said, what John just said, is something that I've been preaching since the day I made a comment about Lenore Sellers worried about helmets, and Shane Beamer got all fired up on Twitter.
Well, he doesn't pay attention to social media.
You had to dig through that one back a while back. But anyway, I can't quite put my finger on it, Tyler. But and is it as simple as you don't have the 25-year-old experience that you had with Demetrius Knight, and I know Debo Williams wasn't 25, but guys of that, Alex Hunley had been here forever, Tonka Hemingway had been here forever.
Sure.
I mean, you had guys that basically had second careers here almost. It's because, again, trying to weigh this team and say, well, they're 3-7, which you cannot deny. That is the record. That is exactly who they are.
Yep.
But also say, well, wait a minute. You easily could be, what is that? You could easily be 6-5, 6-4, I guess.
Sure.
You hold on to the lead at Alabama. You hold on to A&M. Now all of a sudden you're 5-5. Missouri, you're up 2 points going into the fourth quarter. And if you think back to that game, there was a wide open, Mazio Bennett or Vandrevius Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
But there were opportunities in that game. You end up losing by 9. But, and that's my point on this. 6-4 isn't better. I'm not selling anybody like, oh, man, they could be. But how do you weigh those two things?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And that's the thing about leadership, is you can't just create it out of thin air. And I can't point you and say, all right, Bill, you're a leader now, and expect you to be exactly the same as, Boogie or Tonka or even Demetrius Snyder or one of those guys that came in as 1-year players. You either have the intangible or you don't. And I get it when you look at a roster of 100+ players, say, well, somebody in here has got to be a leader. Now, it is important as well. You have to also be a contributor on the field. Like Luke Doty could probably give you the most impassioned motivational speech in the locker room, but he's also not out there playing unless Sellers is getting hurt, which we obviously don't want. So there has to be a balance. If you have to be a player, and you have to be a player of a certain ilk and have that vocalness and leadership qualities to make it resonate with people, right? Because, again, if the backup left tackle is trying to fire people up, it only goes so far. If the starting quarterback's firing you up, that's a little bit of a different story, much like Marcel Reed did on Saturday when they were down at halftime and he's over there, laying into his guys on the sideline. I don't know what he said, but it clearly fired him up enough to help spark that comeback they had in the second half. So you don't see that with Carolina. We haven't had that this year, and some years you're not going to have it. And I don't know if you go into the transfer portal looking for leadership qualities as one of your top attributes when it comes to the players that you're going to bring in, but it would certainly be nice to have, because clearly that's something that helped you out a lot last year.
803-404-6100. Let's go to the phone lines. Talking leadership. Terry wants to weigh in. Terry, how you doing? Thank you for the phone call. What's on your mind?
I'm good. I've got an observation, or I don't know if what I'm about to say is going to be popular. I certainly don't mean it bad about anybody. But the leadership problem has been there all year, and I hear people saying, look, the guy we got playing quarterback is an all-world talent. There ain't no question about that. He's got skills at size, speed that nobody else that I know of in college football has. But when it comes to leadership, that game Saturday was a perfect example of what he's done all year. And in that game, here's what a leader does. And I played ball. I didn't play college ball, but I played high school ball. I played at Gaffney High School, pretty good brand of high school football. And I know this just from my playing days, that in the second half of that game, here's what, I just don't think he's got the leadership skills, because if he did, that dog mentality, at some point in the second half, when the wheels were falling off, he would have got on the edge and he'd have found a defensive back, and he would have run over him and stepped on his face after he ran over him, and that would have changed the whole tenor of Carolina's football team. And I don't mean, some people don't have it, though. A lot of people don't have the leadership skills. But that's what I see. It needs to come from him, because he's got everything you need to be that guy. And so anyway, that's just my observation.
Appreciate the phone call. And Tyler, to Terry's point, it's not that I don't think Lenore Sellers is a leader. I want to be clear about that. By all accounts, the players respect him.
Sure. By
all accounts, the players look up to him. We have not heard a single bad thing about Lenore Sellers. Attitude-wise, obviously off the field, we've had him on our program. I guess my point is, and a lot of you my age and older, you can think back to certain players in our lifetime that have come through South Carolina that maybe didn't have the skill set that Lenore Sellers has, but had some kind of dogged leadership that willed their teams to victory. I think back to Phil Petty in 2000 and 2001. Mm-hmm. Phil Petty was nowhere near the football player that Lenore Sellers is, but Phil Petty simply decided at times, we aren't going to lose this football game. Mm-hmm. And if you think back, there was the Alabama game in 2001 that South Carolina rallied and won, and Petty threw the touchdown pass, I believe it was Hart Turner at the very end. And South Carolina rallied from 2 touchdowns down, and I think the final 5 minutes, if I remember that, they won 37-36 at home. And that was 2001. That's what's missing, is that dude. And, our ultimate guy, if we put up a frame of that guy, is DJ Swearinger.
Sure.
Right? He was the ultimate guy that was basically, hey, let me get 2 personal foul calls. I'll make up for it. I'll intercept it, run it back, and get the 3rd personal foul call for throwing the football into the stands.
Sure.
But I'm going to make the play that does not allow us to give up a touchdown or whatever, and that's what is missing from this football team.
Well, and look, we saw Sellers' abilities to help lead comebacks a year ago, but it's been absent this year. And again, when you do it a couple times a season ago, then that's cool, but when you do it consistently over and over again, that kind of becomes a thing and something that people can look for and kind of expect to happen, and unfortunately it just hasn't happened this year. It's not all on Lenore Sellers, on the entire offense, and guys going out there and not doing their jobs when it comes to executing, but the ability has been there. We just haven't seen it this year.
Well, look, Lenore Sellers is the quarterback. He gets the brunt of the praise and the criticism.
Sure. Comes with the job.
Rocket Sanders ran that touchdown pass in the game against Missouri last year.
He did most of the work on that play.
And yet we're like, boy, Lenore Sellers,
Yeah.
Lenore Sellers had the touchdown run against Clemson, but other things had to happen. He gets the break. We could say the same thing about Dylan Stewart. Hour 3 is on the way. Patrick DeMarco due up at about 2:15, and we'll get into some more stuff from the Shane Beamer press conference. It is the halftime show.
Tyler right here for our friends over at Tilly's Warehouse, first wine and spirit store in 5 Points in the past 20 years. I love telling you about those guys over there, and they've got everything that you need for a fun night in, a fun weekend. Maybe you're going to the game this week and you want to tailgate. Well, they've got everything you need to make that tailgate as good as possible. Locally family-owned and operated, they've got the selection that you need, from things like G4 tequila to the Garnet and Black vodka, which go to the proceeds to the NIL here at South Carolina. They have High Noon, Sun Cruiser, Surfsides, Cutwaters, anything that you can need for your fun, whatever. They've got it over at Tilly's Warehouse. If you mention this ad that you heard on 107.5, you can get 10% off any wine selection. Stay connected with them on Instagram and Facebook, or visit their website at tillyswarehouse.com for more information. Discover why Tilly's is your new must-visit spot over in 5 Points. All right, welcome back in. Halftime show. Tyler Ed, Bill Gunner, Captain Dave, along with you here on your Wednesday on the game. We'll talk with Pat DeMarco coming up here in about 15 minutes, get his take on everything that's going on with this South Carolina football program after, again, embarrassing loss on Saturday. Typically Wednesday's kind of the day of the week where we start to really turn the page to what's coming next and looking ahead. But when you had the result that you did on Saturday, it's obviously a lot harder to do that. Dave's back in the house. Dave, you've been along with us for most of the day. This is a long day for you. How we doing?
Doing well. I just went to physical therapy, so I'm hurting all over.
Okay, yeah, that. All right, it's like whole body workout. What are we doing?
It was the bands, the really strong bands, and
TheraBands,
stretching the legs and doing exercises I've never done before.
Yeah, I've been there, man. I know that stuff will kick your butt, man.
It sure will. I mean, they're so nice too. They're like, oh yes, it's so good. It's going to help you so much.
They lull you into that, like, with the kindness, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, now we're gonna torture you for the next
they're
hour.
Just so nice.
They are. Well, I don't know. Are you motivated by niceness, or do you need somebody to yell and scream at you to get it done?
No, I need niceness. I really do.
Well, it sounds like you're in a good place then.
Yes,
well, that's
place.
good. Again, we'll talk with Pat DeMarco coming up here in about 15 minutes. But so many things going on that, quite frankly, I don't know if we're going to be able to get to all this happening today. I do want to get Bill's take when he comes back in here in a moment on everything going on with the coaching carousel as well. I saw earlier on today James Franklin had his introductory press conference at Virginia Tech as he'll take over that job. Frank Beamer was there. Apparently he got emotional talking about Brent Pry. And again, we'll kind of assess that more maybe coming up tomorrow. But the headline, of course, when it comes to coaching carousel is Lane Kiffin, right? And this, will he, won't he? Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? His family's taking plane trips to Gainesville and Baton Rouge and all this kind of stuff. And we truly don't know. It seems like it's all up to Lane. And he's given nobody any indication on which way he's leaning in terms of what his future is going to be, of where he's going to be coaching next year. I still think it's going to be Ole Miss, to be completely honest with you. I think it wouldn't make sense to me unless they just want to give him $100 million per season, which that's not going to happen, to coach at LSU or Florida. I'd stay put where I am, but we'll see. Lane's an enigma, that's for sure. But I'll tell you what, it's been entertaining to watch. And at the end of the day, we love being entertained, right? Isn't that the most important thing? And Lane Kiffin certainly provides a lot of that. Last night, college football playoff rankings came out for the updated top 25, as we're now 3 weeks into those rankings. And again, we'll get them at the end of the next 2 weeks. And then following championship Saturday, we'll get Selection Sunday, where we'll find out who's going to be in the 12-team field of the college football playoff. And last night, no real surprise at the top, as you had Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M all stay put after their respective weekends there in those games. And nobody seems to be knocking A&M for them being down at halftime South Carolina, because they did come back and win that game. After that, pretty expected moves when you talk about Georgia, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, and Oregon. They all move up one spot. Of course, Alabama was your number 4 team. They drop all the way down to the number 10 spot after losing to previously number 11 Oklahoma this past weekend. And this is where things get really interesting, because as of right now, Alabama is your last team in when it comes to the at-large bids, right? And they still have another conference game to play against Auburn coming up next Saturday, night game at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Weird things happen. Who knows what's going to happen there? But I feel pretty confident in saying this. Alabama cannot afford to lose that game, right? Now, maybe you could have made an argument at other times this year that maybe, them even with 3 losses, they could possibly get in. No, not anymore. Alabama has no choice but to win and be 10-2 heading into the conference championship game. And then we get to that great debate of what happens if you are in and you lose the conference championship. And last night, Hunter Yurachek, who is the new committee chair for the college football playoff after Mack Rhodes, the AD at Baylor, stepped away for personal reasons last week. This will be cut number 26 here, Dave. This is Hunter Yurachek last night talking about how the committee this year will look at teams that lose their conference championship.
Well, the data point of a conference championship game will be just like it is in the past. It is another data point, for most teams, a 13th data point that will be used to compare them to other teams in the ranking.
So that doesn't really tell us anything specific, but if it does end up being the way that it's been in the past, that means that Alabama, if they're 10-2, taking on a possibly a 12-0, maybe an 11-1 A&M in the conference championship. Shouldn't be punished if they lose that game, much like SMU wasn't punished for losing the ACC championship game last year to Clemson when it came down to that field goal at the very end. All that being said, the SEC is positioning itself very well when it comes to the college football playoff. You've got A&M. They're pretty much a lock with the win against South Carolina. Georgia still has to get through Georgia Tech. They don't look like they're going to be playing for the conference championship, so they should be able to get in without much issue there. Ole Miss, I think they're pretty much a lock at this point. Oklahoma's in a good spot right now. Alabama, again, they're on the border. They're the last team in when it comes to the at-large bids. But again, if they play in a conference championship, you don't think they would fall out. And of course, if they win, they're in automatically. And if they beat A&M, well, A&M's in anyway, so that would only help the conference out. And then you have teams right there on the outside looking in, like a Vanderbilt that could jump up in there if things fall their way and maybe get in too. So the Big Ten dominated more of the teams in the field last year. That number seems to have swung back in the SEC's favor this year, unless chaos just happens in the next 2 weeks.
Is that what we want?
I don't know.
I got to admit, and I said this the other day, I don't want to see it become the SEC Invitational.
Look, there are going to be years where it happens that way.
It's not, and I'm not all for putting teams that don't deserve to be in there.
Sure.
I think that's going to be an interesting thing to try and consume and digest and wrap our heads around as we move forward with this college football playoff. Obviously, you know how it'll be, Tyler. We're going to wrap up December, and then it's going to be like, all right, are we going to the 16th? What do we do on 16th? With 16th? We're going to go 16th?
Well, I think they have a deadline of December 1st to decide on that, I believe.
I get to December.
So and with the Big Ten was throwing out that 2014 proposal again yesterday, which, please, I've made peace with 16 happening next year. I'm fine with that. Let's not go past that.
Here's the other part. Is this the year that we really learn the irrelevance? It felt like it was coming a little bit last year. We really learned the irrelevance of now the conference championship games.
Depending on the conference, I think more often than not, the SEC and the Big Ten are probably going to get both teams in every single time. I played the clip there from Hunter Yurachek by saying, like in years past, it's going to be a 13th data point, which means if Alabama's still number 10 when they play in the conference championship and they lose to A&M, they shouldn't drop out. They would still be in. Right. Losing that game has no bearing because it's a game you have to earn your right to be in, just like SMU did a year ago. Now, for the Big 12, for the ACC, those are play-in games because you might only get one team in the dance anyway, so there's still value there. I don't think we ever get to that point with the SEC and the Big Ten because of whether it's justified or not, the way the committee views those teams. You're always going to hold SEC and Big Ten teams to a higher regard than teams in the Big 12, teams in the ACC, and that's just always going to be the case.
So do you foresee a day where the SEC, that you don't have to have a conference championship game? There's nothing in the writing. All the conference championship game would decide basically is, in my opinion, who gets the bye.
Right.
I haven't looked at all the tiebreakers. Do we know who technically Texas A&M and is it Alabama because they
Alabama
have the win over Georgia? Is that right?
So Alabama has the head-to-head win over Georgia as of right now, and if Alabama were to lose the Iron Bowl, they'll put Georgia in because they have the tiebreaker win over Ole Miss. It goes from that to total win percentage of your opponents. If it gets to that, after that, it's like where you're ranked at.
Yes.
There's unlike women's basketball last year, there's more than two criteria where Greg Sankey has to flip a coin on national television, which they have amended this year because that was goofy. So, there's a lot of steps to go through in terms of tiebreakers. But right now, if A&M wins out, even if, considering the fact that Texas lost this past weekend, A&M would still be in with the loss to Texas. And if Alabama beats Auburn, they're in too. That's the simplest math you can do.
Okay. 803-404-6100. We'll get back into South Carolina football. We'll hear from another voice of reason, Patrick DeMarco. Gamecock Patrick DeMarco joins us next. You're listening to The Halftime Show. And once again, live radio at its absolute finest. We are efforting Patrick DeMarco as we speak. Captain Dave is on the case. We will track him down, whatever it takes. We'll be like Liam Neeson.
That's right. You know, they shot, they filmed like 3 of those, right?
Amazing they got 3 out of those.
Yeah, they shot the last one at my high school.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Not in,
They did.
was it?
I don't know
It's
where
the same
supposed to be set.
premise. It's
It
the
is.
same premise.
Yeah.
And how does the family keep getting abducted?
So funny.
Like,
But
at some point in Taken, you stop getting taken.
yeah, or there's enough of a reputation of what he's doing to these people when he
Yeah.
finds them that people stop wanting to take his family members.
And I like them. And by the way, I've come around. I've all of a sudden I like Liam Neeson.
Sure.
I mean, like,
Have you seen the new Naked Gun?
no.
I need to watch that because the commercials and trailer, the delivery, I like it.
Yeah.
It looks good.
I wonder if it's streaming anywhere yet.
Probably.
It's like Fast and Furious. Fast and Furious came out when I was in like college. I think maybe high school.
Yeah.
And how they got 10 out of those still
Well,
blows my mind.
So they jumped the shark after like 2 or 3
Oh,
because
yeah.
it used to just be about a bunch of people that loved, souping up cars and racing them. And, there was like crime elements to it too and trying to save the day. And now they got cars in outer space. Like, what are we doing?
Well, they just started bringing in like
Yeah.
bad dude, like, action here. What's Jason Statham up to these
Yeah.
days? Get him on it. Get the Vin Diesel in
Yeah.
there. Not Vin, get the Rock
And,
in here. Come on.
There is a certain suspension of disbelief you have to enjoy a lot of movies. It's broken in Fast and Furious because the things that happen in that movie are so unfathomable. I'm a very critical movie watcher where I'm like, no,
I am
that can't
too.
happen. Come on. You're not fooling me with that. And Fast and Furious jumped the shark a long time ago.
When they
Hey, I'll
lost.
say this about that franchise. The first couple of movies, they had a Mitsubishi Eclipse.
Yeah.
I had a Mitsubishi Eclipse, and it worked wonders in Blockbuster with women.
Yeah. Did you drift that thing?
Hey, what?
Drift it. The entire second movie was about.
I think it was the third.
The third movie was
Tokyo
about drifting.
Drift,
Yeah,
yeah.
Tokyo Drift. The whole movie was about drifting. Did you drift it?
That's when we lost Paul Walker. We had to come up with
Is
something
that a
for number
metaphor
3.
or something?
What's that?
Is that euphemism?
Explain to Dave what drifting is.
It's quite literally where you drive the car sideways. It smokes the tires. They do it a lot in like Japan. It's a really big thing. It's not a burnout, but it kind of looks like a burnout. It's called drifting.
Oh, that stuff
where
to
you're
impress the girl?
Yeah, you're kind of driving it sideways. It's cool looking.
Yeah, I didn't have to do that to impress her.
Believe our guest is attempting to contact us now.
Okay. I'll stop texting
We'll
him.
stop
as we
talking
say.
about Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he has a favorite Fast and the Furious movie.
He's younger.
Well, you know what?
Patrick doesn't seem younger than me, but he's younger than me. And now that I say that out loud, that he's younger, that Patrick DeMarco is younger than me, I feel older than I should.
As somebody that watched him play in Atlanta year after year, he was fast on the field and he was furious as well. So it's perfect. He has no
see
idea.
what happens when
he has
you
no
don't
idea what we're talking about.
You see what happens when you don't answer right away when we call?
Well, you just mentioned fast and me, so you're totally wrong.
Deceptively fast, sneaky athletic. Is that better?
A good athlete, good hand-eye coordination. Like, I don't fall down when I run, but I definitely don't run fast. That's for sure.
Well, if you made it to the NFL,
I was going to say.
Listen, if you made it to the NFL, you're faster than us, so you're pretty fast.
Yeah, good enough.
I ran, I think, the fastest 40 I ever ran, and they probably started it late. It was 4.72, and that's as fast as if anybody asks me what type of 40 I run, I'm going to say 4.72 till the day I die. I definitely ran 4.9 a few times as well, so sticking with 4.72.
Okay. All right. We'll get into your – I am going to ask you some about your playing days, but not about your speed here. Number one, you doing good? We haven't talked to you in a while. Tailgate Talks is going fabulous. It looks like a really fun show. The G.A. Mangus thing a couple of weeks ago, I know y'all had Abraham on, was it this week, however y'all do it. The G.A. Mangus one with Garcia, that's been my favorite because Garcia opened up about transferring and some things. And I encourage you, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. And GA talking about some stuff. That was really fascinating to hear y'all talk.
It was, honestly, I felt like a fly on the wall for that interview because, obviously I knew GA from coaching me for a couple years and then from being around town. But like that relationship that he had with Steven, obviously being in that room and spending day in and day out with each other was it was really cool to kind of sit back. And I kept the thing flowing because, you know, Steven and GA, they can get drinking and they can be talking about just about anything. So I kept the wheels on the track, but it was fun just to kind of sit back and let them go.
Not the time or place to get into it today, but real quick, did you know the story? And you don't have to share too much. I don't want to put you on the spot. That Steven was going to transfer after the Iowa game, or wanted to transfer, that he was fed up with Spurrier. Did you know much about that?
I did. I mean, not to the extent that he was going to transfer, but I think it was. You know, a lot of it was also. I mean, that game was. It was a pretty shitty situation, right? Sorry, I said the S word. But it was a bad situation because
we're not on a podcast today, buddy.
Yeah, we practiced at Jefferson High School where Steven played. We're back in Tampa. We're playing against Iowa, and everything was just like the Steven Garcia. It was like his reunion, and then obviously he didn't play well, so I think he probably felt the pressure and all the things that came with it. But and then Coach Spurrier is just there's a reason why he was so successful is because he was so critical, and he wanted perfection. He expected perfection, and if he couldn't do it, then he wanted somebody that would. And Steven obviously elevated his game after that for the next 2 years. But yeah, he vented to me a little bit about it. We shared some drinks and then talked about it, but I didn't know that it was to the extent that he was ready to transfer.
If you haven't seen it, go watch. It's the Tailgate Talks with G.A. Mangus, and there's a lot of stuff. Obviously, what we're going through right now, reliving what is essentially the glory years of 2009 through 2013. It's well worth it, and I encourage you to go and check that out. We haven't talked to you, I believe, all season. It's been a while. Let's get your overall view on what you've observed from this football team, and just your opinion, your thoughts through 10 games.
Yeah, you know, obviously it hasn't been pretty in the schedule or the rankings, and our record kind of states that. But I mean, I will say, like, this team hasn't been able to close, but they've been a competitive team. I mean, you look at almost every single one of these games, and the outside of Vandy, we've been in the game going into the fourth quarter in just about all these, and we've just fallen short. So it was a breath of fresh air to see the offense click on all cylinders for 30 minutes on this past Saturday, but then forgot how to play football the last 30 minutes. I just, you know, I as a former player, like, you don't want to be too critical because you know how hard it is, and obviously this league is extremely hard, so you want to give grace where grace is due. But, I mean, I lost the Super Bowl. We were up 28-3, and, you know, it's a pretty cruddy feeling. And I know how bad the team feels. I know how bad the coaching staff feels at this point, you know, in that loss on Saturday. But, you know, you got 2 games ahead of yourself, and I promise you, if you're sitting there and you're overlooking Coastal Carolina, like, you're going to be in a world of trouble come Saturday, because you guys know Chance Miller. I know Chance Miller. He's one of the most competitive people I've ever met, and he's, you know, he wanted the job, and he doesn't have the job, so he's coming with vengeance. I can promise you that.
And unfortunately, you're right. You have experienced a loss similar to what Carolina went through on Saturday, and that was obviously the end of the season for y'all, so you didn't have to go out there and play a game the next week. Put yourself back in that time frame, and if you guys did have to go out and play the next week, what kind of lingering effect would that have had on y'all, and what is that team dealing with now getting ready to play Coastal this week?
Yeah, you know, it's you can only have so much of a pity party, right? You have to. I mean, football it's a week by week game. I mean, it's a play by play game. So you can't sit there and reminisce and play the what ifs game, because I mean, if you play the what ifs games, you're going to get your butt kicked. So I mean, I would imagine just knowing. You know, obviously I was on the staff, and I know a lot of those guys, and I'm still close with a lot of those guys. Like, they all have the right demeanor, the right mentality. They know that, like, how bad that was, and they know how the fans and how the outside world's thinking of it right now. But it's at the end of the day, you got to ignore the outside noise. You can't, as a player, as a staff member, like, the heck with, what social media is saying, what everybody else is saying behind the scenes. There's 118 people, I don't know how many players there are, but there's 140 people in that building day in, day out. Like, those are the people they need to worry about. So as a player, you just really got to lock in and say, I'm going to win for the guy to my left and the guy to my right and the coach who's coaching me. And it just needs to be just a dog mentality. I mean, you see glimpses of, like, how tough this team can be at times, and then you see glimpses of how they kind of shy away. So it's just like, you want to see consistency in their play and, like, start to finish. Let's see that edge. Let's see it transfer for 4 quarters.
You played for Steve Spurrier. Who was it? Was it Kyle Shanahan was your OC? Am I right on that in Atlanta? Yeah.
Yeah, Dirk cut it for 2 years, and then Kyle Shanahan for 2 years.
So you've played for a good offense coordinator. What seemed to not click about Mike Shula's offense through 10 games, in your opinion?
It just, I don't think, Kyle Shanahan was one of the best to ever do it, in my opinion, because he's running certain things to set up other stuff, and like everything looks pretty similar, and you can do 17 different variations of plays that are different looks. I just felt like there wasn't really that much, watching the offense, there wasn't that much of a rhyme or reason. You weren't doing this to set up this. It was just very, I want to do this on 2nd and 8, or I want to do this on 3rd and 4. And there wasn't hey, on 1st and 10 we're doing this because on 2nd and 7 we're going to do this. I feel like they were just searching for big explosive plays instead of playing the game. And that's one thing that Kyle, and even honestly Coach Spurrier was incredible at. He would throw stuff out there in that first drive that it was a play we'd practice a few times throughout the week, but it was a play in a formation just to really mess with the defense, to make them go back to the sideline and talk about it for the entire time their offense was on the field, and just to have them kind of separate and worry about something else instead of what we do. And I just felt like there wasn't much. I know he had strategy, and obviously there's a lot of coaches in that building that were strategizing with him. But I just feel like the play calling, there wasn't a rhyme or reason. This wasn't to set up this. This wasn't to move this forward. This wasn't setting up this later down the game. And from an identity piece, like they just, like the college football game with the hashes being wider than the NFL hashes, like the field's bigger. There's just a lot of turf that you can make a defense cover, and you are like Nick Harbor's catch when he scored on the 75-yard touchdown. That was a simple, like, spacing deep curl route that he just caught. The safety took a bad angle, and he took it to the house. Like, it was just a guy who was forced to make a one-on-one tackle in space. Like, we haven't had that many throughout this year, that many opportunities where we've been in one-on-one situations with a guy in space just to make them miss. I feel like everything is catch tackle or to run, and we're not in open space. We haven't really attacked the perimeter much. So that was all stuff that were redeeming qualities of the offense this year that I would have liked to have seen more. And then obviously, like, design quarterback runs for Lenoir. You have a weapon, you have an extra hat, make them bring the extra safety down to the box to make you honest. And that'll open up the deep pass game too.
Do you have about 6 7? We got to hit a break, but I want to ask you about leadership, something I feel like you're very good at. We had John Strickland. Do you have about 6 or 7 minutes if I hold you through the break?
Yeah, of course.
Let's hold you through the break. I want to come back and just give us about 5 or 6 more minutes. We had a little bit of a late start. We'll do that. Patrick DeMarco joining us this afternoon. You're listening to the Halftime Show. It is 2:34 on a Wednesday, and we are joined or wrapping up with Patrick DiMarco. Again, make sure you check out he and Steven Garcia's podcast, Tailgate Talks, where their most recent guest is John Abraham. A little bit before your time there, Patrick, what did you know about John Abraham before you had him on?
I knew he was a bad dude on the football field in Atlanta. I mean, I got to Atlanta right after I think he signed in Arizona the year that I got to Atlanta. And obviously watching him play, knowing he was a Gamecock. But I knew that he was a high motor guy, and, I mean, he played that way until his last snap. And actually, I connected with him. I think you guys will hear the story if you listen to the episode, but I connected with him at Atlanta at a Falcons game where I did an appearance, and he was there. And it was our first time kind of chatting, and he, like, would have given me the shirt off his back, like, opened up about everything, his struggles, all the things he was going with. It was so refreshing to hear, you know, a guy, big macho man, obviously somebody that I looked up to while I was playing at Carolina and early on in my NFL career, for him to open up to and be vulnerable and was just really powerful and stood out to me.
He is Patrick DiMarco. Make sure you check that out. I believe that is live. I believe I saw y'all post that. I believe that is live now. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
There you go. What I wanted to hold you over for, we had John Strickland on earlier, and I have brought this up multiple times, and I want your opinion of it, having played in college, having been on the teams you were on, also in the NFL, and as you mentioned, playing for a Super Bowl. I think, and you can disagree with me, there's a difference between leadership and what I call alpha male leadership. And we've talked about these games. South Carolina's been in 5 of them in the fourth, specifically in 5. To the point where they've had 3 leads go into the fourth quarter and twice been within a touchdown. It doesn't seem to me they have the alpha male. Y'all had DJ Swearinger, and y'all had plenty of other guys who just, you know, maybe they weren't the loudest guys, but they just simply said, we're not going to lose this game. Can you describe that? Am I on to something there where it's guys who just simply say, listen, this is not happening? I don't know if that's an age thing, Patrick. I don't know if that is something ingrained into you, or I don't know if I'm totally off, so I'm asking you.
No, yeah, there's definitely those type of guys that just you generally gravitate towards and have that kind of command and that presence of, like, I don't want to let this guy down. This guy's, you know, putting not his life on the line, but he's throwing his body around. And he's doing everything he can to get this done. So, like, man, I'm on board with him. He's a ride or die. Like, you have those kind of warriors that play with that mentality. And then you have the guy, like, you know, there's a million types of leaders out there. There's guys that lead by example. There's guys that lead by play. There's the rah-rah guys. There's a time and place for everybody. But when it's fourth quarter and it's time to go finish a ball game, yeah, I mean, you got guys like, I mean, even like, you know, Steven Garcia definitely wasn't the lead by example type guy. I mean, I could say that I was his roommate, but he was a guy that come the fourth quarter, you want him to have the ball in his hands. Like, I don't care what you do. Let's run some sort of RPO and let him make a decision, because he is just like, he's a warrior. And then defensively, you're looking at, we had guys like Cliff Matthews that was steady Eddie and did everything right and was a principal guy who. And he sold out every single play. And then you had guys like Stephon Gilmore, who was going to do everything under the sun, whether you need to return punts, you know, guard the number 1 receiver, or come over on offense and take wildcat quarterback snaps. So we definitely had several kind of those alpha leaders that you were talking about that don't necessarily fit in one, you know, weren't leaders in one sense. They were leaders in several senses. And those are the type of guys, you know, like, You don't want to have a leader that's going to sit there and when things are hard is the only time they talk. You want a leader who's going to be there through the thick and thin, through the good and the bad. The guy that in summer workouts is the one that's keeping the boat sailing. So I think that's a big piece. But also you got to dive into it. It's a different era of college football now. It's a different kid. Money changes things. It always has and always will. So I'm not sure. That has to come into the effect of, like, my check's coming regardless. Like, I'm not going to kill myself here.
Yeah,
as bad as it sounds, but that's got to be a nature of the beast now.
Yeah, and I guess the point I'm trying to make, I think Lenore Sellers is a leader, but the question I would have is he that leader? Is he that guy? And he's the quarterback of your team, and is that the guy you need to have that?
I mean, your quarterback definitely has to embody, like, you go how the quarterback goes, and there's a big piece to that. And Lenore is an exceptional leader from my time getting to know him during his recruiting process and then my interactions with him. Like, he embodies everything you want, a leader to embody. It's just, fourth quarter, the last 3 plays of the game were his 3 worst plays of the game. And those are the situations where you want your best player to elevate. And he unfortunately did not. And it's not all on him. Like, the pass protection wasn't there either, but, it just, like, how that game ended on those 3 plays was like, man, like, give Steven Garcia that chance. Like, he's going to make something happen.
Patrick, we always appreciate it. Again, Tailgate Talks is absolutely fantastic. I look forward to getting you back on in the very near future, and we will catch up with you. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving and continue to follow you there on the podcast.
Oh, you guys as well. Thanks so much for having me on, and always good catching up.
You too.
Yep, thanks,
Take
man.
care. What do you take away?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's going to know it better than anybody because he's been in a lot of locker rooms at the college and professional level of what leadership needs to look like. And again, some guys lead by example. Some guys are rah-rah. Sometimes are a combination of both. But, as we've talked about, you don't seem to quite have that right combination of guys this year. And again, that's not the end-all be-all of why you're losing some of these games you're losing, but it's certainly something that we think could help you out because it was a very important part of this team a year ago. And again, in terms of what you are hoping to fix in the offseason, finding those right kind of voices, finding those right kind of leaders, whether it be guys that are already here or guys coming in from other places, hopefully you figure it out.
And I hammer this home a little bit because I'm trying. I think we all want to decipher where is this team, where is this program.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Let me speak for me. The laziest take in the world is just to go, well, they stink. They're 3-7, and you are what your record says. But the laziest take in the world is just, this is a bad football team. You're not a bad football team. You're not a bad program when you've had the number 3. You had them on the ropes. The number 3 team in the country on the road, and you should have beaten them.
Yeah.
You should have beaten them. There's no excuse. There's nothing that can be said. You should have won the game on Saturday. You had Alabama on the ropes, and quite frankly, you should have won the game. You should have won the game. Missouri's a good – when you played Missouri, they were a better team than they are now.
Yeah.
Injuries are kind of getting to them. Oklahoma, you were down – Oklahoma kicked a field goal, I think, midway through the third quarter, and you went down 10.
Yeah, 10-point game. But you were still in it halfway through the third quarter. And you're right. There is, I said earlier, there's a difference between getting bludgeoned every single game and saying, okay, like Beamer says, and I get it, we're all sick of hearing it because you're not winning the games. Okay, if 2 or 3 things go differently, you win those games. Again, you're not doing it, but you are closer than, all right, well, A&M beat you by 30, Alabama beat you by 40, Missouri beat you by 25.
Yeah,
that would be a program that's really, really bad. And then we'd be saying, all right, yeah, I think maybe Beamer needs to go.
And that's because I assume I'm under the impression that Lane Kiffin stays. We got to get into that later.
We'll get into that.
But I'm also under the impression that Shane Beamer's back. And I say that because I think you have to take that into account. And so when Shane Beamer says yesterday, well, the second the clock strikes 0 at the Clemson game, we start focusing on 2026. Well, what are you focusing on? Is it upgrading the talent, which you do need to do? Is it finding those dogs? And what is the change, besides just offensive coordinator? What is the change in the offseason that prevents you from doing this? And then we're going to have to go to this tomorrow because we've got 1 segment left. What is the change in the offseason that fits the worded, the verbiage, and the what he said yesterday about being in contention for the college football playoff next year?
Yeah, and look, I assume offensive coordinator is priority number 1 because you got to make that hire probably before signing day coming up here, right after essentially the season ends. But past that, like, what's 2, what's 3? Like, what is your order here of most important to least important things you got to figure out in the offseason? You obviously want to figure it all out, but like from a priority standpoint, what comes before other things? And not that we're going to get Beamer showing us his whiteboard necessarily, but I'd be interested to know kind of, okay, what you go from most important to least important in terms of things you got to figure out over the course of the next 9-10 months once the season ends.
803-404-6100. We'll come back and wrap everything up. You're listening to the halftime show. It has been a busy show. We'll get those interviews up. Tyler and I can sit here and talk all we want, but I think it's good to hear from guys who are in a college football locker room. I think it's good to hear from guys who are in a Gamecock football locker room. I think it gives credit to whatever your opinion is when you hear that. And if you haven't called it today, I thought John Strickland in the 1 o'clock hour was great. I thought Patrick DeMarco right there was fantastic. And there's going to be fallout from this season, whatever occurs over the next 2 weeks. Tyler, there's going to be fallout. There's going to be assessments by us, probably unprofessional. But there's going to be assessments of what's wrong, what went completely wrong, and how is it fixed? Because next year, I don't know. In 2004, Lou Holtz was a proven head coach, Tyler.
Yep.
Proven head coach. And it was kind of like, all right, well, whatever happens, look at what Lou did. He's won a championship, and he's won everywhere, and it's just, okay, Lou can do no wrong. The Steve Spurrier thing came apart just wildly.
Sure.
I can't explain to you we were just talking about being media members and being entertainers, and about in 2015, I would say I was no longer a media member, and I don't consider myself one today. But we all know how that Spurrier thing, it came about so quickly and so abruptly that we didn't have time to, I think, assess the situation and go, hey, what's happening? Oh, no, this is done?
Yeah.
That's over?
He's gone.
I don't know if I've ever seen a year that I've been alive. Maybe some of you can go back to the 80s and the 90s, Brad Scott's. Yeah, I don't, again, vaguely, Tyler, I'll go back to 98. Brad Scott goes 1-10. To my knowledge, to my recollection, I don't think Brad Scott was necessarily on the hot seat going into the 1-10 year.
Yeah. And look, that was a different era of college football. The expectations and standards of what we held coaches to, their salaries were a lot different back then. It's a different game now. And we're very much in an instant gratification society, and that's especially true as sports fans where, look at James Franklin, who we just saw being talked on SportsCenter about as the new head coach of Virginia Tech. That guy was coaching Penn State in a playoff semifinal 10 months ago, and now he's at a completely different place because he's been fired. Like, that's how quickly things happen in college football. And again, we're operating on the assumption that Beamer's done enough up to this point to guarantee that he's going to be back coming up next year. Now, the next 2 games go sideways, maybe that changes, but up to this point, we feel pretty confident saying that he's going to be back for 2026 and get an opportunity to redeem himself for what this disappointment of a season has been. But again, we can never say everything with 100% certainty.
And again, I'll say that I think he should get another year. Now, you get boat raced in the final 2. We'll revisit that discussion on December 1st or November 30th or whatever that day is. But at this point, I think he should get another year. We'll close out. Radford last night. But what were your assessment of that basketball game?
I like the fact that they scored in different ways and kind of similar to what happened in the prior game against Presbyterian. You almost had the exact same number of 3-point shots made. They had to start scoring inside the arc. You know what I mean? And last night, I believe somebody from Gamecock Central pulled up. That's the most they've scored from 2 in Paris's entire tenure here so far, which is significant because, again, we've seen teams live and die by the 3. And if that's the only thing you can do offensively, well, you're going to have some great nights. You're going to have some bad nights. So, and again, it's Radford. It's not comparable to SEC play necessarily, but that tells me that team has the ability to score in a variety of ways because some nights you're going to need to get dirty. You're going to need to get down there and start scoring near the basket because that's the only kind of shots that are falling. And for at least last night, they showed the ability to do that, and hopefully that translates to the rest of the season.
They were 2 of 14 from 3-point range at halftime. They finished 7 of 25, so obviously 5 of 11 in the second half. But you mentioned it. Off the bench, Elijah Strong led the way last night.
He had a great night last night.
Yeah.
Or his best night so far.
That's what they need. They need a confidence builder from him. He needs a confidence builder. They need him to kind of get going. Was interesting. Hayden Simeon played 11 minutes last night. Did get to start. Michi Johnson, 26 minutes last night. And this is another big feat. Only 2 points from Michi last night. And we know that this is part of Michi's career. Yeah. You're going to get the 30-point game.
It's the ups and downs, man.
You're going to have the game where he didn't shoot it a lot last night. It's not like he was inefficient. He was 1 of 5, and he only took 2 3-pointers.
He did tweak his leg, ankle, whatever it was at one point, and did go to the locker room. But you know what? I feel pretty confident when Eli Ellis is out there running the point that you have somebody else behind Meechie Johnson that you can trust at point guard.
Eli Ellis on the season. Well, Eli Ellis last night, 27 minutes, 14 points, 3 assists, a turnover. I'll say this for him. If you look at his overall stats, his assist to turnover stats this year are very solid.
Yep.
And we'll get more into those. All right, we'll be back tomorrow on I think Brian Edwards will join us. I just saw a tweet where he may be in the Bahamas.
Oh, all right.
Live radio at its finest. Y'all have a great day.
All right, 3 o'clock on a Wednesday. Welcome aboard the post-game show. Jay Phillips working remotely yet again. Tyler Head hanging around for a little bit, so I get to have a few minutes extra of the Tyler Head sports experience. Terry Ford will be along shortly. Glad all of you are on board. David Cloninger will join the program coming up bottom of this hour. Our good friend Patrick Davis will be with us later on. And I won't tell you yet what it is, but I've got a start bench drop that I think I know what every single listener, Twitter follower, texter, Tyler Head is going to drop.
Okay.
But I will have that shortly.
Sure.
First off, good to have you on board, sir. Glad.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging around.
We don't get to talk quite as much anymore.
No, we don't. I'll work on that. I promise. That's the goal. What's the mood been like in the midday? You know, I'm not there anymore like I used to be, but these last couple of days, you know, again, I think a lot of people, if you had signed up for a 1-point loss to the number 3 team in the country at their place, you'd have been like, well, hey, at least you put up a fight.
Sure.
When you lose the way you lost, nobody sees it as anything worth writing home about. But I don't know if that mood is changing now that we're into the middle of the week and another home game looms.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because, again, Reaction Monday, we're reacting directly to what we saw on Saturday. Sometimes that spills over into Tuesday, but when you have a loss like that, which basically eliminates you from bowl eligibility with 2 more games left to play, I think now we're kind of taking stock of the entire program and assessing where it stands going into the offseason. We're just talking about, Beamer talked about yesterday too, of what you need to change and what needs to be better for 2026 to be the kind of bounce-back year where Beamer called a shot yesterday at the press conference saying, hey, this time next year we're going to be in these rankings. We're going to be in the playoff mix, and, we're not going to have the same kind of feeling once again. And, again, we'll reassess that and November 19th of 2026 and see if he was right or not. But I think it's giving us an opportunity to really start looking ahead to this offseason, the coordinator hire, the transfer portal, all these kind of things that are going to set the table for what 2026 is going to be and what we all know is going to be a make-or-break year for Coach Beamer, now especially with the new athletic director in charge, Jeremiah Donati, that didn't hire him. The kind of future of this program hangs in the balance.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, that I think Elijah this morning put out, a new poll question about exactly where people were with these last 2 home games. And at least at last check, and I'm actually going to pull it up right now, there was not a whole lot of real good feeling about winning these last 2 and having you feel better. Would wins against Coastal and Clemson make you feel better about next season? And it's just a yes-no question. 56% say no. There's still plenty of time to vote. That may ultimately alter. I suppose this season is this season, Tyler. Next season is next, and a lot of this doesn't necessarily hinge feeling-wise, vibes-wise, if you will, on whether or not you beat Coastal or Clemson, but whether or not you, do get a really solid offensive coordinator hire and potentially, let's just say for the sake of the discussion that Sean Elliott remains the offensive line coach and then you fill the void of tight end coach. But whatever, you've got 2 full-time positions to fill on the offensive staff. And you know that you not only need somebody who can coach and develop both, with players, but in-game when it comes to the OC and the play caller, but someone who's likely going to need, if not both, going to be really solid recruiters. So there's that aspect of it all. And then holding together this current recruiting class, which is, by all accounts, a pretty solid one. It's about where Carolina typically is at last time I've checked, but nevertheless, maybe I don't want to say premature on Monday, but I told Terry, I think you need to win both of these for people to feel really good. Maybe some fans are not as tuned in to what's happening on the field anymore this season.
I've described it this week as you're kind of in purgatory right now, where winning these last 2 games, that gets you to 5-7. So you would just kind of tie what your worst mark has been and not set a new standard of 3-9 or 4-8 or whatever. But even winning these games outside of, maybe beating Clemson 70-0 or something along those lines, It really doesn't change your thoughts and opinions. And I do think a lot of people are already starting to say, okay, what's your OC hire going to be? What you going to get in the portal? And starting to look ahead to 2026. And again, for the Beamer era, and give them credit because it's taken 5 years to get to this point, they've never been in a situation where they're not really playing for anything. And yes, there's still motivation to beat your in-state rival, and that's something that this team and the coaches certainly care about. So there's that aspect. But in terms of playing for a 13th game in somewhere in December, Birmingham, Orlando, whatever it may be, and getting all the practices and benefits of having that extra game are off the table at this point in time. So it's a weird kind of in-between where, yes, you still got games, but at the end of the day, I don't want to say they're like exhibitions because they're not. They still count on your overall record, but it doesn't really change much whether you win. Now, losing them would certainly, ratchet up the vitriol that people have as of right now, but your season's been a disappointment, and really the next 2 games don't change that either way.
Well, you just made a great point. If you win them, I'm almost getting a sense from some, not all, that it's kind of the shoulder shrug guy, like, okay, cool. But if you lose, like, the pitchforks get sharpened again, and everybody wants to run out and continue to scream and holler. And I'm not saying that's wrong. It is interesting. And, I know, look, for a guy like me who grew up around here, went to school here for years, Tyler, and I'm serious about this, for years, something that I heard that would drive me particularly nuts, both before I started doing this job and now that I've been doing this job for not quite half my life, but it's getting pretty close. I just want to beat Clemson.
Yeah.
As long as we beat Clemson. And I'm like, so you're good with going 1-10 or now 1-11? Well, no, but I'm like, well, wait a minute, because you said all you care about is beating Clemson. So, and now we're almost at a point where, and I mean this in a good way, as I blend these two kind of things, I think maybe a lot of this fan base, now that you're 30-some years into the Southeastern Conference, and last year we're so close to being in the mix to play in a national championship tournament, that maybe you're realizing, there is more than beating Clemson. But I got a hunch by the time we get to this point next week, there's still going to be a lot of, I really want to beat Clemson.
Yeah, is that not one of the biggest cliches we have, especially in like college sports, where the old thing of, we can go 1-11 as long as that one win is against the rival, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, whatever you want to throw in there. Like, no, I think you'd rather win a few more games than that. Yes, beat the rival is important, but it's not absolutely everything for the entire season if nothing else happens.
Well, it took Steve Spurrier years, in so many words, to kind of start to rid this fan base of that notion. And he said, there was a lot of signs around when I got here, a lot of signs about just beating Clemson and beat Clemson and beat Clemson. And he's like, well, we got 8 games in the conference to play first.
Yeah.
Well, Clemson's the 9th most important game on the schedule until it becomes the only game on the schedule. Then it starts to really matter.
There is a balance, because we saw something similar to that this year with Paul Maneri, where you didn't have a good series against Clemson back in the spring, and he's like, the SEC games are more important, and people lost their mind. Like, hey, wait a minute, this guy doesn't get this rivalry. What's going on here? And again, the season didn't end up going the way that anybody wanted it to go. So that kind of stuff gets put under more of a microscope. But there is a balance, because yes, it's important, but it's not absolutely everything.
No, and I contend, again, it's like I said, as somebody who's got a lot of experience with it, look, does beating Clemson matter? Duh. And, is it as important? I don't believe so, but does that diminish its relevance? Of course not. I think it's different.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. It's a standalone opportunity. And, I do think it's going to matter next week. But I don't know, to come back around to the larger context of how we started the show, I don't know right now if that's going to make people feel a whole lot better. And I'm not sure it should. I mean, this year, when you look at it relative to expectation, it's been a disappointment, and that's an understatement. That's an obvious understatement. But we'll see. And look, that's not to diminish the importance of winning on Saturday, and that goes back to something Shane said yesterday in the presser, that hey, our guys had a good Sunday. After we kind of shook it all off, we went out, we had a good practice. Monday was an off day. Tuesday we're back at it. And Coastal has won 4 of 5. They're playing pretty good football right now. They've had a couple of injuries that hurt them last week. Gamecocks are heavy favorites for a reason, But I think more than anything else, Tyler, how Carolina comes out and plays and responds this Saturday will tell us a whole lot more, not only about where they are in terms of beating the Chanticleers, but what next week could potentially look like too.
Yeah, you can, especially when you have a historic collapse like you did, that, again, is the first time nationally that people have probably talked about this program in the better part of 2 months. You wonder if that can beat you twice and what the hangover that is. We just had Patrick DeMarco on in the last hour that suffered one of the biggest, or was a part of one of the biggest collapses in all of sports with the Falcons in Super Bowl 51. And for them, they didn't have to play a game the next week. And, that obviously would have been tough if that were the case. And Carolina's living the reality of having that collapse, flying back home to silence, apparently, on the plane, if you listen to what Beamer said yesterday, and then having to get your mind right and focus on another opponent coming out the next week. One that, on paper, again, you're 3 touchdown favorites against. You're supposed to beat, without too much trouble. But as we know in college football, especially this year, that's not always a given. So how do they come out? Are they inspired? Are they fired up? Or are they going through the motions? I think it's going to be more of the former than the latter, but we'll see.
So if you want to participate on the station poll question, again, go to 107.5 The Game on Twitter and answer that again. A yes/no question. It's very simple. Do you feel like these last 2 games, if there are victories for South Carolina, are going to change the way you feel about the outlook of the program, or do they simply just not go hand in hand given what has happened? We'll get into that for you throughout the course of the afternoon. We'll have more on the Lane Kiffin watch as a lot of folks begin to weigh in on that. CFP reaction from last night. Tyler, the Bulldogs move up into the top 4 and yet may not be playing for the SEC championship. Can Georgia stay number 4 if they they'll beat Charlotte. They should beat Tech.
Yeah.
But does an 11-1 Georgia stay in the top 4 regardless of who wins the SEC title game if Georgia does not play?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If Ohio State wins the Big Ten and A&M wins the wins the SEC, then those teams would obviously stay inside the top 3. I think you'd make a case then that A&M would be 2 and Indiana may drop down to 3, but we could have an example where it's all Big Ten and SEC with 2 champions and then 2 at-large teams holding up the top 4 because, again, you're next. Texas Tech winning the Big 12, I guess maybe makes the argument for them hopping over Georgia if that stays true and they win out in those next couple games. I don't know. The committee does value that 13th data point in terms of not only bumping you up but also keeping you in the top 12 or 10, depending on if you lose that game or not. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Regardless, I don't think Georgia's going to be playing in the SEC championship game unless things go nightmarishly wrong for Alabama on the Plains. Weird place to play. Never know. But yeah, it's an interesting spot the committees could put themselves in with these rankings.
Yeah. By the way, Andrew just hit me. Something to think about. I'll talk about it on the other side. Andrew just said beating Clemson is the benchmark for where this program stands. If we are beating Clemson, odds are we're doing pretty good in the SEC. All right.
Okay.
Chew on that, everybody. Chew on that. I won't comment right now, but chew on that for you. 803-404-6100 to be part of the program. AAA phone lines or the Firehouse Subs text line. I'll come back. As I said, I've got a start bench drop based on some information that came out this week around college football. So it's a college football themed start bench drop. And I got a hunch. I know what everybody is going to drop. But maybe I'm wrong. We'll tell you what it is when the postgame show comes back. Want to really surprise your family with something nice this holiday season? How about taking a visit to Griffin Pools and Spas, checking out their amazing collection of bullfrog spas, and then having one delivered to your house right around the big day. For more than 15 years, Griffin has proudly partnered with Bullfrog. It's a brand that consistently delivers innovation and quality. They have customizable designs, superior hydrotherapy experiences, and that's why the folks at Griffin love selling Bullfrog spas. The possibilities for that personalization are endless because you can choose the jet fit configurations at every single seat and create a uniquely tailored spa experience just how you want it. Plus, you could incorporate things like the speakers, Bluetooth speakers that are waterproof to make things that much more fun. 1348 North Lake Drive in Lexington, steps away from the dam. Online, griffinpoolsandspas.com. All right, 19 minutes after 3 o'clock on a Wednesday. Welcome back in. Jay and Tyler with you for a little bit till Terry resumes his place inside the Herndon Chevy Studios. Captain Dave is at Master Control. It is start, bench, drop time. All right, Tyler Head, you ready for this?
Yep, lay it on me.
All right, here we go. So earlier this week, it kind of fell by the wayside. It wasn't as big a story as this sometimes typically is, but the Big Ten made a proposal at a meeting in Charlotte to the other Power 4 leagues to have a, wait for it, kids, 24-school college football playoff. They want 4 automatic bids for the 4 power leagues. So there's your first 16. They want 2 group of 5 schools to have an automatic entry into the field. And then, the rest of these will be at-larges. As you can imagine, this has not gone over very well. We'll talk more about some of this in specifics in the next hour. But for now, Tyler, start, bench, drop revolves around number of participants in a future college football playoff. So, again, whether we do these alphabetically or in this case somewhat, I guess, chronologically, maybe not quite chronologically, but in diminishing order, or I guess ascending order, 12, 16, 24. So that's your start, bench, drop. Your starter, obviously, is going to be the number you prefer in terms of a future playoff format. And I don't want anybody to say 8 or 4 or 6 or whatever else. Let's stick to what we got because we're not going backwards. I promise you that.
Sure.
I promise you that. We're not going backwards. The likelihood of being at 12 next season feels very real, considering the somewhat arbitrary deadline that Disney has placed upon the powers that be to get this fixed, or at least to set it up for next year. So December 1 is what Disney has said. So 12, 16, 24, Tyler. That's what we're looking at.
Okay.
So you chew on that. Before you leave, you can give us yours. Terry and I will give ours later. And I'll, unlike yesterday where I completely forgot, I promise I will throw this out on Twitter at some point for folks to participate that way. In the meantime, real quick, Jeff wants to weigh in on the early portion of today's conversation about this season, the rest of it anyway, and looking ahead. Jeff, good afternoon. How you doing? Oh, and Jeff just rolled off.
Yeah, I think Jeff hung up.
Well, okay. Well, sorry, Jeff. If you want to call back, Jeff, go ahead. Barry wants to weigh in as well. Barry, how you doing, bud?
All right. How you doing, Jay? You feeling all right?
I'm getting there, man. I'm getting there. Got some things to keep going through here soon, but I appreciate you asking.
I'm there with you, brother. All right, now you know I'm neutral, bro. You know, I watch the games. I watch all football from 12 o'clock in the afternoon until whenever it goes off at night, 5, 6, 7 games. And, you know, I look at the caliber of football across the country. And, you know, as far as a neutral football fan is concerned, not a Carolina student or even someone in your position, I have to look at it as, you know, honestly, these last 2 games mean absolutely nothing. They're totally irrelevant. I mean, the season is lost. The season is terribly disappointing. You know, it used to be the motto around here was win the East, win the state. Well, that's no longer here. So, you know, you won the East one time. Lee Corso said the Steve Spurrier would never win a South Carolina SEC championship. He was correct. So now you got 16 teams. So you can't go and win the East. You got to do 16 teams. So these 2 games, if you want my opinion, I don't know what Sellers' status is, okay, because based on the last 3 plays of the last game, okay, when you take sack, and then on the 4th down, you do what he did. That's, you know, everybody was talking about this kid before. I think he's still a project, okay, a project in the works. So if I'm coach, I'm going to go into Coastal, and I'm going to play half a game, and I'm going to start seeing what I got for next year. I mean, I'm going to let Aaron Nolan get out there, okay? I mean, because Sellers, if he comes back, he's not going to come back here. If he gets drafted, he gets drafted. But it's time to see what you got next. You've just had 2 generational quarterbacks, local generational quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler, 13 and 12, and look where you stand now with this guy. I mean, and so Beamer has had 2 generational quarterbacks back-to-back 4 years, and look what the record will be after that. So that's why I say to a win over Coastal and to say that the benchmark is to beat Clemson, that's childish talk, bro. That's childish talk at this point in time. You know, isn't the goal to win a national championship around here? Is that not the goal? So
I know what you mean, Barry. Yeah, I get it, Barry. And thanks for the phone call as always, man. Look, I know where Andrew is coming from, and believe me, again, Tyler, and it's especially, I think, and I don't know how old Andrew is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of that just beat Clemson or Clemson is the benchmark is generational. I don't want to discount what Andrew said. I would probably lean more towards where Barry is. I don't know if I'd call it childish, but I see what Barry's trying to say there. But I don't think South Carolina – here's what I used to say, Tyler, and see if you agree with me as somebody who's been here now for a few years.
All right.
For as much as people want to say, I just want to beat Clemson, and I know what they mean, even if they don't mean that quite literally, again, going 1-11. But I just want to beat Clemson. I understand that. But my point all along, especially when South Carolina began to get it going under Steve Spurrier, where they beat Clemson 5 years in a row, was, hey, if you're competing every time you play Georgia, every time you play Tennessee, every time you play Florida, and then you get that opportunity like where you beat Alabama, or even though they didn't win, the game Marcus Lattimore had over in Baton Rouge and Carolina played a hell of a game. Again, no moral victories, but the point is you were competing with a team like LSU.
Sure.
Then I always said, you'll be competing with Clemson.
Yes.
So I don't look at it in the reverse. I guess that's all. And that could just be a matter of how certain fans or observers, to Barry's point, approach Carolina Clemson. But I look at it more as where Barry was and what Steve Spurrier tried to teach this fan base. You're in the Southeastern Conference. Clemson's not in the Southeastern Conference. Your job is to try to win the Southeastern Conference, because if you can do that, the things that are ahead of you are much larger than simply beating Clemson.
Well, I think it's with rivalries. I think it's kind of a beauty in the eye of the beholder thing, where your opinion or how you view it is not wrong. It's just going to vary person to person. And yeah, for some people, that may be the only thing they care about. For other people, that is a little bit lower on the totem pole. So I don't think there's any wrong answer. Barry's entitled to feel the way he wants to feel. Andrew's entitled to feel the way he wants to feel. I guess when you're in the situation where you're at right now, where you're a team that's 3-7, and even beating Clemson isn't going to really change the outlook of what this season's been, then maybe other people's opinions of it being different than yours can be frustrating, I guess.
I almost thought, and again, to kind of blend the two, even if because I've said for years, this doesn't just go to right now. I've said for years, look, South Carolina's primary job is to be successful in the Southeastern Conference.
Yes.
And I say that, again, as a lifer. I don't have any problem, not diminishing the importance of Clemson. I'm simply setting Clemson aside. But I almost thought, Tyler, and again, we can't really gauge the entire fan base through Twitter polls, that maybe this season the Clemson game would take on more importance in terms of feeling better about who you are. And I'm almost getting the feeling right now, and like I said, maybe by next week it changes, but I'm almost getting the feeling that, not so much. And I wonder if that's a sign of some form of fan base progress. That might not be the word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean? Like, well, yeah, I used to feel that way, but now I really don't.
And, for a lot of the past decade, Clemson has been at the very top of college football, which means if you're competing and beating Clemson, that means you're being looked at as one of the better teams in the sport. Now, it's only been in recent years they're finally able to break that streak and finally start beating them. Unfortunately, now Clemson's taken a little bit of a step back, so where that win from a national standpoint doesn't quite, mean the same thing. And again, I think, like you said, it does depend on your era, your generation, how you view that game, because now there is an expanded playoff, something that's more accessible, that at the end of the day, as Barry pointed out, should be the ultimate goal for everybody to get to and play for a national championship. So again, nobody's wrong in feeling the way how they feel about the Clemson game. It's just opinions are going to vary. And again, when we're all frustrated right now because of where this team is, that, you're looking at other people's opinions and saying, well, that's not right, because the way I feel about it is the right way.
Yeah, there'll be a lot more unity towards beating Clemson next week.
That'll be different. And you know what? That'll give you at least a day's worth of reprieve. You can beat them, and then we'll go back to feeling bad about this team after that.
That's right. We'll come back on the other side. Our good friend David Cloninger will join us with his thoughts on the latest around the football program, the OC search, get a little hoops in as well. DC from the Post and Courier when the post-game show returns. All right, 3:34 on a Wednesday afternoon. Welcome back into the post-game show. Jay, Tyler hanging out until Terry gets back, and joined on the guest line now by our good friend David Cloninger on the beat for the Charleston Post and Courier, giving a new nickname to where media members sit covering basketball. How's that working out for you? How are you?
Well, not terrible, Jay. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there. It's almost
I
Thanksgiving.
suppose that's all we can ask for, you know. I mean, the new seating is, something to get used to. But I tell you what, at least I still don't have to pay for a ticket, so that's always a good thing.
That's true. We'll come back around to basketball. I'm not going to really rehash Saturday or anything like that, David. Maybe more the fallout and some of the things that we heard yesterday from Shane. But we got a poll question running about the last couple of games of the year and how people will feel in terms of springboarding into next year. But it does feel like, at least right now still, the sting of Saturday is affecting people's moods, and that maybe more of this is about what Shane does to fix the offense than whether or not Carolina wins these games. And depending on who the fan is, that can change. But in terms of that OC hire, how far along do you believe he may be? And give us more of your take on what you think Shane is most concerned with when it comes to making that decision.
Well, I think to answer your first question, I believe that there's been a lot of vetting going on. I believe he probably has a list of, this is just me saying, probably 6 to 10 names that's saying, hey, this guy, I like this, maybe we do some further research, maybe we can get him, just kind of the bare necessities of what you need to know if you want to keep pursuing that guy. So that's the first part. The second part, though, I think maybe the biggest concern would be, man, hindsight's always 20/20. And I certainly wouldn't have. I don't think anybody else would have minded last year either during bowl preparation when it became apparent that Dowell Loggins was not going to be around for the bowl game. That was initially the thought that he would be, but then he wasn't. So nobody would have cared, I don't think, at that point if you say, hey, Mike Shula is the interim OC, and we'll see what happens. And then, we'll start looking around for a guy in January. He didn't. He made Mike Shula the permanent OC. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. I mean, I get the familiarity angle, but, man, South Carolina was white hot at that point last year. They'd won 6 straight. You had a great quarterback coming back. There would have been a lot of guys who would want to work in that opportunity. Well, you fast forward now and say, let's just say it, how many guys are going to be interested in coming to a place, even if it is in the SEC, even if Lenore Sellers comes back and say, do I really want to go for maybe 1 year for what will be a hot seat coach? So I think that's